This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, if I keep it to. How you doing, buddy? You fell off the ladder this year. No.
This is for your protection. Somebody comes up today, gonna make it past the first row. I promise you.
That's cheap, he said no.
He might make it past the first row if he's having a good taste.
Never know.
So I'm assuming you're Rizio. Seen this couple meetings. Who was presenting, I thought, okay, I got one of the face.
It helps.
Yeah, you left. What, you left? Yes. How long been here?
Just a year now.
I've been gone 2 years in October. So, I just left.
And then I had to step out of the commissioner meeting to present. So,
That's where I started the first time.
I did church. I knew it was happening too. I'm like, no, I'll finish it out. Couldn't.
Yes, ma'am.
Classic. Yeah. I almost there, man. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So that's on the other side of that. Our Bruton's is. I know Ron's carpet is on First Street. Let's see.
Phase two, you guys have plans for those? Yeah, it's, but they started, right? First one. Yeah, so the plans are KDOT getting the final approval. So hopefully, at this point, it looks like it'll probably be October, November. But that's why they like the cycle. Yeah, yeah, that'll be part of it. Right.
I think something that we need to south is students study in college. Good answer. Yeah, I know kind of what you're talking Oh.
Thank you all for coming out, and thank you for anybody that's watching online. We appreciate your taking the time to learn about what's going on in the city and listen to some potential opportunities to take care of some issues that we know that we have. So I just want to kind of give a little background on funding and street funding currently. And then with that, then I will turn it over to Nick, and he's going to present an opportunity that we may have to address street problems that we haven't been able to do in the past. So our general fund, so I'm taking this off our 2022 audit since that's the most recent one done. But our general fund dollar amount was $11.7 million in 2022. So in the property tax that we generated that year was $3.1 million. Sales and comp use tax, the non-hospital sales and comp use that just went to the general fund was $2.3 million. So that was about $5.3 million in taxes. And to put that in perspective, it costs about $6.3 million to run the fire and police department. So the taxes that we generate on property and sales aren't enough to support just the police and fire. So just kind of keep that in mind too as we talk. I'm a property owner too. I pay property taxes and I don't like it, and always, so I understand where everybody's coming from on this. So on the streets, that's probably one of the least funded areas in our whole city. So in 2022, we received about $475,000 in motor vehicle tax. And our street budget, that funded was, $811,000. Of that, it's about $486,000 as personnel, and then the other $325,000 went towards, the automobile, fuel, materials to work on streets, snow removal, all that kind of stuff that goes into it. So there's not a lot left over in the street fund to do a lot of maintenance work. And then we do have another funding source for streets, and it's a special highway fund. And in 2022, we received about $858,000, but our expenditures in that fund were $1,100,000. So we had some carryover that we used to fund that. But where those dollars go is the matching funds for, like, we did the Summit Street project. There's the 15th Street Bridge that we had a grant that we're replacing. So a lot of that money is going to matching funds for grants that we're chasing to do some of the bigger projects that are eligible. So the things that we're going to be talking about tonight are more focused on the side streets, the things that we don't have opportunity for funding on, and it relies totally on local dollars. So kind of keep that in mind. And in the plan too, there's some extra help with some of the bigger projects too, but really the big focus is those side streets that are just outside of mind, or just no funding for, and they get neglected just because there's not the funds to do anything with them. So with that,
What's up with the $1 million you gave a hospital? Did you ever get it back? You
that's
gave them $1 million.
that was loaned to them, and that's in the process of being paid back. They're going through some auditing things, and so that'll.
Because I thought they were supposed to pay it back before the end of July.
Yeah, the original thought was they would be able to, and as they work through the project, and I'm not, I don't know all the details, but they have to do some auditing on the front end before the money's released.
Yeah, I'm sure of that, yeah. Okay.
So that's what I know about that. So with that, I want to introduce Nick Rizzio. He's our project manager for the city. And
thank you everyone for coming. Thanks for everyone who's online. A couple things to keep in mind: that we are streaming live and we will also record it. So that way, if you want to go back, you can view it. If someone missed it, they can see it through our social media platforms, maybe even potentially the website. So thank you for being here. The way it's going to go tonight, I'm going to go ahead and address a few of the concerns that I saw on social media. I'll go through a short presentation. Some of the information might be a little small for those who are in the back, so that's why you have the printouts. Just stay with me if you wouldn't mind, so you don't jump to last page and ready for some questions so we can walk through together. And then at the very end, I'm happy to address any questions or concerns people may have. So we'll do that. And then the way to also with the questions, because we have people online, I'll try to address those questions also, so that way we can have both parties commenting as much as possible. So like Randy said, my name is Nick Rizzio. I'm the municipal project manager. It is essentially my job to try to make Ark City better, however that works. I've been with the city for about a year and a half. I moved to Ark City about 4 years ago, so I'm still very new, still learning. But I do remember the very first time I drove into Ark City. Maybe even seen Tony that day, but I was taking my family. We're all in our minivan. We're going down. I can't remember which street it was specifically, near Dillon's, and I hit a massive dip with my minivan. Obviously, they're low riders, so I am nervous as I'm getting ready to move to Ark City, and I couldn't believe it as I hit a massive dip, and I'm like, what is wrong with the town? Why do we have 4-foot dips here? Still ask that question, but we'll address that here in a little bit. I was nervous that something happened to my vehicle, so I pulled off the side into Dillon's. I started to get under my minivan, trying to figure out something broke. Now I'm brand new to this town. I got to find a mechanic. What am I going to do? So from day one, I understood that there's a problem with streets. Let's address elephant in the room. We know there's other problems in our city other than just streets. There's infrastructure issues. We understand there's housing issues. We want to address all those, and so I'm going to try to do that tonight. But before I get into that, obviously you saw on social media, or if you haven't, I'm going to address a few of the concerns that people brought up, because I think it's imperative that I would ask if you, even if you disagree, you keep an open mind through this presentation, so that way I understood of what took place back in 08 with the resolution, that we can talk this through, and I hope I can address any concerns or frustrations or questions people may have. And if we can keep an open mind, I hope that I can help bring light to why we're having issues in our city and how we can address them. So A couple of questions. Has the city applied for any infrastructure monies and grants? Randy actually just brought that up. Last year with Summit Street, applied for the 2 grants, were awarded. Madison's getting ready to start in August 14th, I believe. That is the target goal, where that will be a complete mill and overlay. So we're excited for that project to start. That also has grant money tied to it. So any major projects we have, as far as I call the main veins, like your 8th Street, your Summits, your Madisons, we do go pretty aggressive after grants because there's such a large cost that the city just can't simply afford such a high bill. So we try to go after those grants to help offset those costs. So yes, we do it. Why haven't our tax dollars that are allocated for that been used to maintain them? The city isn't going to magically spring forward with more of an effort if they get this to pass. The roads remain the same, and so will management with our tax dollars. Once again, it's difficult. I would ask that you don't put me, management, or anyone in the pot, from 2008 when the resolution passed. That was a half-cent sales tax for 5 years. If we can look, at this from a new perspective, and I would hope that you keep an open mind and let me try to explain our current situation and how we can make it better. That's all I ask. And I'm going to try to prove to you doing that with a few of our slides. So, when is the ballot to vote? There is no ballot. It's simply, there's no date, there's no month. I don't have a time frame. The reason why, because we need to do this the proper way. The first step is meeting here and having a discussion with the public, educating the public. Why do we need to better our streets? How can we do that? What are the opportunities that we have? That's the first step. After that, it's going to be addressed to the commissioners. So the commissioners, they will take the temperature of the audience or of the city and go from there. And they'll make that decision whether the vote will go to the people or not. So this is just first step. It's all we're doing. There's no hidden agenda. This is simply, I'm here to educate you, show you what we're currently doing with our streets, what do we need to do to improve our streets, and how can we do it. The last time we did this, only streets that saw maintenance were Kansas Avenue, Summit, and Radio Lane from the high school to Summit. Tell us how this will be different. I'll do that through the presentation. I'm sorry, one specific location seems like was addressed. We're going to change that. I'm excited to show you through this presentation how we're going to address that, where we're going to focus, and what we're going to do to really be successful. So, why do we need to buy equipment for streets? Don't we own it already? Great question. I actually didn't know that. I had to find out from our street guys. We have a roller from my understanding, and then we have the machine for chip seal. If you're not familiar with chip seal, it's just a cheaper product than your asphalt. It's not as durable, lasts maybe 3 to 5 years. And then when you get your heavy trucks or machines on there doing hard turns, what we call is alligator. It looks like your alligator casing on top of the road. It starts to break apart. And then you start having issues down the road. So really, the chip seal is not a long-term resolution. We need to find something else than just Band-Aids. So, all right, this is going to be a tough one. How can we be guaranteed that the money will go where it's supposed to? I know it's a big concern. There have been too many promises over the last few years that haven't come to fruition because of all of a sudden the money was no longer there. The money set aside for certain projects seems to find a way of disappearing. The only thing I can guarantee is my word. You don't know me, I don't know you. Real simple. But I'm going to show you through the presentation how the money is going to come about, where the money would go, what we'd buy with it, what we would project to complete in 10 years, and what do we do after the fact. That's all I can do. I can't screw you over. I can't give some magical speech. It's just simply, I'm here to make our city better. I don't know very many people, but I want to do what I can to earn your trust. I want to make better streets here, and I understand there's also a lot of other problems. We are addressing those problems too. The water lines, the housing, all of that's being evaluated by our management, by our team. I'm not picking, I want to make sure I'm very clear about this, I'm not picking streets over water lines or streets over housing. There's no specific order. The water has been addressed with commissioners, the streets have been addressed with the commissioners. That has given to them. Now we go through the proper channels of what needs to be done. So my guarantee to you, I'm going to do the best I can to elaborate on how we can improve our streets, and we'll go from there. That's all I can do. As far as the money, I do have a plan how we will maintain that, how we will maintain that trust. Shanna is our communications director. She's phenomenal at what she does. What I'd like to do is work with her hand in hand. Every time we start a project, take a picture. Every time we end the project, we complete it, take another picture. And here's where it gets better. I want to sit there and put how much a project costs. So you can keep track with me. If you have an Excel worksheet on your computer, keep track on your computer at home and work with me because I want full transparency. Not gonna hide anything. Everything's out there counting to the dollar, to the penny. So you can see each year what we're spending and how much money's left. I don't understand how any more transparent or honest I can be other than here's what we spend. Now you can track with us. And that's the goal. I don't fully understand this. They said like the 300K for a splash pad. I had to look into that. I think unfortunately I was not here, but that money was directed to Wilson Park upgrades, not specifically a splash pad. So that money, if you're aware, went to the pavilion that was built, right? I believe the pavilion. Yep.
The corporate donation part went.
Yes.
The grant that was turned back in.
Yes. Personally, I think water line should come first. I agree. I mean, water line should come, but I don't think we just need to allocate, say, one or the other. I think it can be both. And the reason why is because my question to you is, how long do you replace water lines until you start replacing streets? I think it's subjective. I think we'd all have different answers.
I would point out, we have been working with, on a 20-year water master plan, and so you may have seen something in the last meeting about rate analysis that we'll be working on, and so that goes hand in hand with this to see how aggressive we can be in addressing the water line issues that are in the community. So we are deep in the middle of that too. So.
So like I said, I don't think it should be one or the other. If it's possible, I'd love to see both. I think we deserve it. I think it's been far too long where they have not been addressed, and I think it's time to do it now. I think we have the right people, the right staff. I think we have the right game plan. But other than that, if we don't start today, when will we start? Because as we all know, everything continues to get more expensive. What the price for today was, it's more expensive tomorrow. So that's what I have to tell you. What happened to the last sales tax for street repair? Little humor right here. Never mind, I know. I did it, so I had to find out. It was started back in 9/16/08. The last street sales tax went for 5 years, half-cent sales tax. And right here, I have the Excel sheet. 8 projects were proposed, 4 were completed. Looks like a bunch of brickwork was completed. The only thing I can say is I'm sorry.
Not your fault.
Well, I mean, it does no good for me to blame whoever. It doesn't make a difference.
It's just good for us to complain.
I want to acknowledge that, and that's why I'm apologizing. I'm sorry.
Somebody's got to be accountable.
I understand, and I wish that accountability.
Did that 0.5% tax go away after the project was complete? Did the 0.5% tax go away?
After 5 years.
After
Yes.
5 years, it did.
How much money did it generate? Do you know that?
450,000 per year to answer his question.
Oh, you know it?
Yes, sir.
Oh, there you go. 450,000 per year.
5 years.
5 years, each year. Yep. So, with that, I think what happened there, from what I'm reading in the Excel sheet, too much was guaranteed and just under delivered. And that wasn't because of the workers. I think a lot of times we try to put the blame there. That's not what it was. I think it was just, at the end of the day, maybe just not the best plan. And so the plan I have today, full transparency, I'm going to show you everything I have. I'm going to try to lay it out as best as I can so we can all understand. Why hasn't this been tried once before and then nothing substantial accomplished? Once again, I wasn't here. I don't think I was even in Kansas in 08, so it's hard for me to truly understand, but I just don't want to. The point is, I don't want to sit there and try to group what we're trying to do now in what took place in 08. This is just a new opportunity. Like I said, I'm sorry for what took place in 08. Looks like just things were not accomplished the way they should have been, but I'm here to try something where we can be successful, we can have great streets. Don't we already pay a road tax for something like this? I believe Randy partially addressed this. There is a gas tax. I believe primarily that fund goes back to the state, if I'm correct.
No, the gas tax goes into the special street fund, and then the vehicle taxes go into the street fund.
Okay. Our sales tax is already high enough. You add that on top of the inflated prices, more people will be struggling. I will shop in Winfield if the sales tax increases again. I understand. Sales tax, it is high. I mean, it's high for everyone. You have that right, whoever wrote that, you have that right.
It's killing the city. It's killing businesses. Unless your name's Graves or you're Warren or or somebody like that, it's killing these small businesses. Business after business downtown is closed. There's empty building after empty building after empty building. Since I've been here 9 years ago from Tulsa, Oklahoma, I can't count how many businesses have closed down.
Because of the sales tax?
How many broken promises the city has made us. The Wilson Park master plan, were you involved in that?
No, sir. I was here about a year and a half working for the
That
city.
went aside. Oh, we're gonna do this and this and this. You know what I see in Wilson Park right now? Drug activity in that drive-through at the Rotunda deal. I live 4 houses down from there. Drugs, drugs, drugs. And the police don't care. They drive right by it.
I would, if you would hang on for a second, that there's a lot of opinions there. I would
Okay.
wholeheartedly disagree about the police don't care. I think that's inappropriate in my opinion. I believe the police do care, and they're doing an excellent
Well,
job.
I know some
But
of
what
the
I'd like to do though is get through this presentation, and then
Okay.
I promise you,
Thank you.
one of the last comments on social media, found it a kick. They said, how funny you was playing for 1 hour. That was in respect to you. If you want to get home, get some dinner, a few families, I will stay here for as long as it takes to address your comments in this room and also online. And if that's till midnight, I'm all yours. I am here to answer any questions. Yeah.
I'm new to the city also. I've been here about 3 months. And one of my ideas was to help revitalize downtown.
Yeah.
And one of the things I did was paint the front of the Spokes and Things building. And I did that at no cost. One of the other things I do is I walk up and down, I pick up trash on the streets, and I don't expect to have any thank yous for that. But what I have done is rode my bike and walked these streets up and down every one of them.
Yeah.
And I don't believe $900,000 is gonna fix your streets. And I don't believe imposing a sales tax increase is gonna help the city at all. Especially when I wanna open a business, and I'm looking at opening a business and buying a home here. And a 10% sales tax is higher than the city I lived in 3 months ago with 1 million people in it. And so how does the city, with people who are already struggling, dare suggest a 0.5% sales tax increase when people are struggling and trying to get through it? These taxes can be reappropriated in different ways. The city has people that are smart enough to get together and figure out other ways to make this work without imposing a 0.5% sales tax on people. It's not gonna work. It's not longevity.
Sure. First off, thank you for cleaning up, doing things that, you know.
That's not the point.
No, I get that. I just want to say thank you.
Yeah.
And then what I'd love to do is get with you after, and I'd love to hear what some of your ideas are.
I'd love to share
Being genuine.
Yeah, no, I'd love
to hear it. And then, first off, 900,000 per year is not going to solve the roads. And I'm going to explain that through this PowerPoint. That's not my intention. 900 grand per year for 10 years does not solve the roads.
I think
If
the roads
we have
are great
too
for what you have. I
many.
think the community is great for what you have, but imposing a 10% sales tax is going to drive business on high ticket prices somewhere else, like cars and houses.
Sure.
I mean, tax the people who aren't improving businesses that they own downtown. I love that idea. Impose taxes on people who aren't doing their part, that have money already. Don't take away from people who are struggling already, because they use all their dollars on the bare necessities of life, and then you go and tax them another 0.5%, and then they struggle more.
Sure.
Now you have even more problems that the city's gonna have to take care of through other problems that they have. I think the community is great. I think the police force is great. I've met most of the police officers. I've met the chief of police. I've met with city officials. I'm a member chamber. I've tried to get involved in the community as much as possible. There is real potential in the city, and it doesn't need to come from the taxpayers' dollars.
Okay. Let me get through this, because I want to address that 10% you brought up a couple times, all right? So I'm going to go through this, and then, like I said, after the hour, I want to essentially close it where I'll be done with the presentation, but you are more welcome to stay for any questions or concerns. I'll be happy to stay here, like I said, all night, and also to address online. But I just want to keep that in respect for people who need to go home, feed their families dinner and whatnot. So plan the process. I mean, it goes back to day one I first moved here. Dreaming, what would it look like if we were to revitalize the streets? How would we do it? What would we do? Where do we even start? In fact, what material would we even use? I mean, that's the difficulties that are coming across. This is not something that was just thought of overnight, and then we put a sweet looking PowerPoint together really quick and said, here you go, we're done. No, this was carefully thought out, got with the street department, with the management, talked with other cities on how they're accomplishing their roads that they're having difficulties with, and what can we do to be as successful as possible. Once again, this is just the first step of introducing what the possibility could be for improving our streets. but nothing is done deal. There's no set date. There's nothing. This is step one. That's all it is. It's just a conversational piece. So what we design it, what do we build it, what is it going to look like? So there's a lot that went to it, but we need to talk about the current application. What makes up Arc City Streets? The city includes approximately 104 miles of streets and alleys. Asphalt is about 40 miles, brick is 24, chip seal is 33, gravel is 14, concrete is 4. The kicker is Arc City does not have equipment, labor, or funds to support yearly street maintenance. The only plan which is in place due to being handcuffed is reactive when we should be proactive. And the problem when you're being reactive, it controls the narrative, the pricing, and the labor, and that causes the citizens to pay more money. We've got my goal, the whole thing what I want to try to do here is get away from contracting out jobs that we shouldn't be contracting out. If we can do it in-house to save money, then let's explore that opportunity. But with that, it comes some things. Having a proactive plan allows the city to perform yearly street maintenance, reduces complaints, street issues, and safer streets. So how do we do that? What's it going to look like? What's the big game plan? I don't have a silver bullet. I don't have the end-all be-all answer, but I have a strategy I think will help help protect our streets as much as possible. And it's called the slurry seal. This is not the end-all be-all. Let me just make sure I'm clear with that. The slurry seal, if you don't know what it is, I'm not going to go through the what, the why, the when, and the how. You have that all in your information, and like I said, it's recorded. You can go back and read if you like. But the slurry seal is an application of mixture of water, asphalt emulsion, and aggregate, which is very small crushed rock. Essentially put all together, heat it up, and then you apply it. If I had to relate to something so we can all understand, if you have hardwood floors in your house, what would you put on them to protect it? Polyurethane, correct? So you protect it from foot traffic, from liquid spills, anything of that sort, from animals, scratches. You want to prolong those wood floors, and that's what we want to do with our streets. How can we get them to last as long as possible so we're not spending our money over and over trying to replace them like what we're doing currently with chip seal? Yes.
Have you had any experience with slurry steel
I have.
on city streets?
Yep.
Actually, the city I was at before, we owned the slurry seal truck, asphalt lay down equipment, all that stuff. So I've got probably.
Randy,
10
you're
years of
saying
experience.
that you can save 70% by using slurry seal.
Slurry seal is a lot cheaper.
In my experience in building, 50% of the cost of construction is the material.
That's the
If you
benefit.
save 70%, you threw away all material.
If I can, I'll get to the numbers of exactly what a slurry seal costs compared to everything else. So we'll get
Well,
there.
I'm gonna excuse you about it because if you put slurry seal, according to your documents here, you're gonna put 3/8 of an inch a layer on top of whatever's there. The brick, the rock, chip, whatever it is.
Let me get through it, and then I'll address it if I can. Because right there, we're not putting slurry seal on whatever. It's going to be specific. So the way I learn, the way I do things, like I got to see it in person. I've talked to our street department that whenever they work on certain things, I want to be hands-on so I can learn. That's just how I am. Reading textbook doesn't work, so I want to see it. I want to be there. I want to hold it. And this is what the slurry seal would look like. All right, so that's what the slurry looks like. The benefits of the slurry seal, it's 1/10 of the cost compared to an overlay. It's quarter of the time compared to an overlay. It's a preventive maintenance method, which that's what we're currently lacking, is being preventative. We're not being proactive. We're always reacting. We need to change that mentality. Ensures Arc Seal will be proactive rather than reactive. It provides a seal for approximately 5 to 7 years. So what that means is if you have an asphalt road, let's just say hypothetically it lasts for 10 years, if you were to apply this onto that asphalt brand new road, like for instance Summit, you could allow the longevity of that road to last longer. It's just like that polyurethane where it protects it. And that's the key, is for a fraction of the cost, we can start protecting our streets rather than let them continue to be decimated and then we'll end up replacing them. Allows us to properly maintain our streets on a yearly basis. It's an average 3/8 of an inch per seal compared to a 2-inch overlay every single time we replace it. Provides safety and protects our vehicles. It's half the time and labor compared to chip seal. And the great thing is, depending on weather conditions, it takes about 4 to 6 hours to dry. So by the time you leave for work, if weather conditions are great, low humidity and precipitation, it allows our guys to go ahead and get that dry before you get home. So it's a lot of good benefits. I think it's something that we should definitely explore and look into. So what is the current process?
And I'm just real quick, as you was talking about the 70%, but it looked like it got, when we used to do the streets, it would take the whole street department and then we'd pull the parks department and everything else. That looked like they were using about 6 people.
Yeah.
So there's your labor that got shut in half, which would drop you down to your 70% now.
The vehicle, the truck that we had in my previous city, you had a driver, you had one guy on the back controlling all the mix, and then you had a guy on the screed controlling the width.
Broom.
Yeah, and then you had a couple guys down mopping.
Randy, you had 4 guys with 2 buckets mop your driveway with a bunch of same kind of solution. That will last about 2 to 3 years in Kansas with our son and our whatever. It looks real good when you put it down, I grant you. It will not hold up to any kind of traffic.
No.
3/8 of an inch won't even
No,
hold up to the tread on my pickup.
I'm telling you, it's different, and it will. I've experienced
It
it.
may be different, but I'm saying, I'm used to putting down 2 inches of asphalt.
Yeah.
You're saying 3/8 of an inch, and you're gonna have to put it down every 5 to 7 years. So you're in your 10-year tax period, you're gonna put that street down at least twice, using twice as much cost as you're predicting you're saving. So you're right back to your same cost in 10 years, and you don't get a 10-year street. If I put down, or anybody puts down a chip and seal street, it lasts 7 to 10 years, and normally will last 15 to 20
There's
in like residential uses.
I've actually seen the numbers in the budget, and I know better. So it does cost a lot less. It's an emulsion oil.
It costs less to put it on, I'll give you that, I can see that, but it's not asphalt.
No, it's
Well,
not
you're gonna
asphalt.
convince me of that.
And no, it's not asphalt. It's not a replacement for a mill and overlay. It's a replacement for chip seal.
It's a way to seal moisture out, is probably the best thing you can say about it.
How long ago did they, what was it, 2 years ago that we did the South Summit? Two years ago, 3 years ago?
3.
And
Yes.
it's already cracked up and beat up and looks like alligator down by the Poor Boys Music Theater and everything. So your asphalt that we put down lasted 2 years.
Oh, I believe that.
So if this is lasting 3 years, we still made progress.
Okay, you're turning every truck in town down that street to get in or out
No,
of
no, way
town
down.
off the bypass. It's
Right, okay, yeah,
same traffic.
sure.
And I'm comparing it to residential streets on 8th Street, 7th Street, 6th Street, 5th Street, car type traffic. This stuff won't last 5 years.
I wholeheartedly disagree. If you go to-
Well,
if
it's
you
fine
go-
to disagree, we're here
Right.
to talk things. I'm not here to,
Absolutely.
I'm not gonna say I'm absolutely right, I'm saying,
Right.
this is where I see the numbers getting skewed.
No,
I
would-
see
would disagree.
the half-cent sales tax trying to raise $1 million in 10 years, roughly. 900,000, it's 90,000 per year, so you raise 900,000. You're gonna spend that at whatever rate and whatever number of streets that will cover each year. By the end of the 5 years, you're gonna be back replacing the first. I wanna be on the first 5 years, not the last 5, because you'll never get to me, which happens so often, and that's what these people are complaining about.
I
They're
understand.
promised
Now,
something.
this'll
Some
take
of
care
us
of the
are
chip seal, right?
complaining, some of us like.
So,
to see
so the chip seal,
preservation,
the money for the chip seal will go there too.
Bring up your points.
Yeah, the water line break, then you refix.
Well, that's the other
All
issue.
right,
Already made.
all right, hang on one second. Let me get through this, please, and then I'm happy to address the conversation. Like I said, I want to get through this in an hour, and then I'll stay here till midnight, we can have the conversations, but there's other people waiting. That's fine. So, current process, what we're doing is we're spending about $60,000 on chip seal. That's all we're doing. It allows the city to cover approximately 20 blocks. Unfortunately, when you have about 2,080 blocks, it takes about 140 years to
Could I
chip
stop
seal.
you right there just for a second? You just gave us the figures, you're, with 60,000, you're covering how many blocks?
20.
And you can do 7 times as much with your overlay. So you're gonna do 140 blocks. And how many blocks are there in our city? 2,080? I think I wanna be in the first year, not the 6th year.
Overlay, I think you're confused, but let me keep going, please. I appreciate it. The cost comparison of street maintenance per yard. So for the slurry seal, you're looking about $2.50. Your chip seal, you're doing about $4.50 per square yard. If you contract it out, it's about $18. Once again, getting away from jobs where we don't have to contract, let our city crews be able to do what they can do, and that is rehab the smaller streets, not your summits. Obviously, those need to be contracted out. We don't have the manpower, the equipment to do so, the traffic control. So we need to be responsible how we do it and let these guys replace the streets. When we, if we were apply a slurry seal on the Summit Street, it would have only cost about $29,000 compared to hiring a contractor. If they would apply slurry seal, it's $212,000. So that would have saved us about $183,000. So when we contract things out, Arc City's paying almost 151% difference. It's unacceptable. We've got to change that. We have to do in-house work. I think we can all agree with that. When you do in-house work, it's cheaper than contracting things out, even if for your own home. A simple call to somebody come in, a professional, to fix something, you're always paying more compared to if you can fix an outlet yourself. So,
That's not true. That's
all right,
ridiculous.
what does the public say about the current street conditions? You can see it's staggering. 81% says that they're dissatisfied, 13 says they're content, 6% says they're satisfied. So what do we do? How can we move forward? How can we improve our city? I think we can all agree we have issues with our streets, we have issues with our water lines, so what can we do? And that's what I'm proposing. Half-cent sales tax, about $900,000 per year. At $2.50 per square yard compared to 18, which is the contractor's price, the city will complete approximately 1 mile of slurry seal compared to 20 blocks. That's if we had all the money, time, and effort. But you can see the vast difference of what we can accomplish by doing this. This would allow the street department to complete a key street replacement each year, brake maintenance, conversion as needed, sidewalks installed where necessary, maintain street safety, converting gravel streets into asphalt, being proactive in maintaining our streets, and installing new street signage where applicable. A lot of people have brought up the sales tax. I completely understand that. If you look at our number, we're at 8.5. We're tied with Winfield. And then if you look at Udall, 7.5. Burton, I think they're 500-600 people, if I'm correct, and they're at 8.5. Rock is at 6.5. Now, for those who are fact checking me right now online, and you're looking at it, you probably type in Arc City sales tax, you're going to see 9.5%, and that is because of the Summit Plaza strip. That's at 9.5. Just that Ace Hardware strip is 9.5. Everywhere else in Arc City is 8.5. So make sure we're all on the same page. Now, the conversation came up when we were talking the 10% and such. If you look at our county, we are at 9.5. Cowley County is 9.5%. Some people say we're the highest county in the state. I would disagree. We are not. There's actually 41 other counties above 9.5%. The average for Kansas is 8.5. So we are right there about the average. We're not the highest, you're 11.5, 12%. We're not your lowest. But you can see that we have for too long prolonged our infrastructure, and now we're going to pay for it. But we've got to figure out how do we do that. I understand everyone's going to have their views on how they want the road to look, or what we should do, or how we should do it, or what materials we should use. I understand that. We're all, obviously, we can have our own opinion. But the point is, we have to do something about our infrastructure. The longer we wait, the more expensive it gets. That's inevitable. We can't stop that. So here's a 10-year outlook. It may be difficult to see. I apologize. But if you have your handouts where you can look there, Starting in 2025, before I go any farther, once again, I want to reiterate, when we do our projects, start to finish, each project, when we start it, when we complete it, we'll take a picture. We'd love to show you what it costs out to be, so the full transparency is there. We're not hiding anything. It's right here. The M310E, that is the slurry machine payment. That'd be $65K, and it goes all the way across. Your paver, we need to purchase one of those so we can lay down. That's $35K all the way across. Your slurry seal, and then you look at 2026 F Street bridge replacement. Sometimes we have to address our bridges, and one of those, unfortunately, is something that's coming up pretty quick. So we would need to replace that bridge. Slurry seals for next 2 years. In 2029, I've received a lot of phone calls about people having difficulty seeing downtown street signs, specifically the actual street itself. So one of the ways we could address that is through an LED street sign. I'll show you what that looks like. It's just an option. Slurry seal for the remaining years. And then 2025, you look at the fourth row. This is where we'll start on our projects. Linden between 4th and 5th. Random Road from C Street to F Street. North 6th Street from Kansas Avenue south to Avocado. Avocado from 6th West to 7th Street. Now, the reason why those areas were picked is because we're not, it makes no sense for us to throw our guys on a massive street project doing this for the first time for some of them. The last time we were laying down asphalt is in 2008, 2009. Not all the same guys were still there. None of them were, I guess. Two are. Our supervisor, obviously superintendent, right? We have to be able to be on the same page with the entire crew. We're not gonna just use the money and then apply it, and it's, frankly, it's a crappy job. That's unacceptable. It needs to be done right. The guys need to find their groove. They need to know exactly what every single person's role is and how can we perfect the street. And that's what we're gonna do. Now, this is not the guinea pig area, I promise. We moved around. It's not the guinea pig. We have guys who are professionals, they know what they're doing. But we're gonna start on small blocks, all right? And then in 2029, on the fourth row, you'll see the Summit Street Mill and Overlay, the Summit Street Radio Lane to Skyline, Walnut to Madison, 8th to Ark River Bridge, bypass 15th Street, 1st Street Bridge over Mill Canal replacement, and then Summit Street to Country Club Road. Those are pretty audacious projects, but we have to get them done. They're breaking down. Those are the projects that we will really be aggressive going after grants. Those obviously, you can see the price tag on them. They're huge, and we need to apply for those grants to help offset those costs. So the next row, you'll see brick maintenance all the way across. Miscellaneous, 150K. The reason I put that, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We have no idea what's going to break down. We have no idea what's going to happen with inflation. We have to prepare ourselves. I think this is one of the issues where when this was done in 08, 09, there wasn't the preparedness of what could take place in construction. We all know nothing ever goes perfect in construction. Something always goes wrong.
Sorry, but in those grants, those aren't grants that are guaranteed.
Correct. It's not guaranteed.
Who's going to pick up the cost of those grants that aren't guaranteed if they're not awarded?
The great thing is at the end of the 10 years, we're still profit. So let me finish that, okay? So the asphalt, apply for that, 50K all the way across. The striping, we want to do as much of that in-house as possible. Our guys laying down the brand new lines and also going around town, making sure that we have yellow, blue lines, the white lines, everything looks professional. We're done as best as possible. And then the concrete intersections. Our guys in the street department do a phenomenal job with that. They look great. They last a long time. We want to continue that. And then our street signs. So at the very end, we estimate about 128,000 left over. And we'll do the exact same transparency and honesty if everything goes well, which in construction never does. I don't plan on 128 being left in.
I apologize. Before you move the slide, I just wanted to ask a couple questions. I see for 9 years, we're paying $65,000 for this equipment. How much is the cost of the equipment?
$650K for a slurry machine, okay. And then for the paver, it'd be $350K.
And do we own them at the end of the 10?
We would own them, correct.
That's payments, that's not. Right. That's part of that's interest. Right. Okay, I'm going to back up.
Hang on.
What's the longevity of this machine?
Good question.
That's a hard thing to answer as far as the slurry machine because they just.
Because it's hot and nasty work, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to break down.
They came out with the Gen 2 version for the slurry machine. I don't remember exactly what date it was released. I still think it's too new to know the expiration. Randy, how long have you guys owned that one in Mount
That
Beach?
one we got in 2013, and they don't usually, they use a,
I'm saying that,
Yeah.
that kind of work is horrible, hot, nasty
Yeah.
work, and that kind of machinery will break down.
Sure.
And if it's broke down, and you're paying 65,000 a year for it, how long does it stay broke down? And what do we do if it is broke down? Does everything just come to a screeching halt? That's my question.
Yeah, and that's a great question. So obviously the miscellaneous, that's what I want to plan for, but we do obviously buying brand new, you would have warranties built on that. The company that Burkamp is in Kansas, so they can come down within 24 hours and work on the machine as needed. So that's another benefit. We're not buying it from the East Coast, then we gotta wait, 2 weeks for them to come out here and fix it. So that's gonna be helpful.
So, were you saying that it has a 10-year warranty?
I hope. I don't know. I don't know the warranty. I
Most
didn't get that.
commercial equipment doesn't come with a 1-year warranty.
Yeah.
So, if it's got 10, you can buy it.
Yeah. Yes.
You brought it. I'm gonna have two questions.
Okay.
First of them is, what temperatures and what days can you lay this kind of rain, snow, sleet, hail? What working days, weather-wise, can we expect to use this equipment?
So you want to start early summer and end early fall. So
you're talking 5 months?
probably no more. Randy, was that pretty consistent with you guys also?
yeah, it was a summer, it was a summer.
Then what
project.
I'm getting ready to ask you then is, how are you going to do a year's work in 5 months? You're budgeting for a full year, 65,000, and you're gonna use it 5 months. That's a question, not a
Sure.
comment.
Yeah, no,
Secondly, and more importantly to me, you're showing $1,300,000 expense, and by my simple math, 900,000 times 10 is the 900,000 mark, 90,000 times 10, 900,000. Where is the extra 400,000 coming from?
As far as
To pay for these projects.
for that specific
And
year.
I'm seeing them up there in your major projects. You're saying grants. You've got $3 million worth of projects up there.
Correct.
So if we don't get that 3 million, do those projects not get done?
No, they
Do
will
we
still
rob
get
it out of
done.
the 900,000 to get them done and leave everybody else hanging? What is the plan there?
Yeah, this will all get done with or without a grant. There's still a surplus even
Then
without a
you're gonna
grant.
take 3 million out of someplace,
Well, if it's.
by your own figures.
I understand, but if you look at the math, drawing it all the way down to 1.3 million, we are not spending, you can see, for the first 4 years, the heavy amount of 900,000. That will be left there to ensure for later on in our heavier
But
projects.
then
That's
if
why we
I'm
go
reading
down.
right, in 2029, you're spending $800,000 on Radio Lane. That's almost the entire amount of the tax.
Mhm.
And the next one, I believe, is 900,000, the entire amount of the tax. And yet you're proposing all these other things be done the same year.
Correct.
You're gonna come up short cash. That's what I'm saying is,
Sure.
by using your figures, you're $3.5 million short of doing what you're telling this public you're going to do.
Not with the
You
first
can't
4
do that.
years.
This is what gets the city the bad reputation of not doing what they told us. And I'm not accusing anybody. You're doing exactly that tonight. You're telling us you're gonna do 13 million, if I got the right math, worth of projects with $9 million of income. You cannot do it without stealing 3 or 4 million out of somewhere else.
We're not stealing from anyone
Well,
else.
I don't mean that term. I'm just saying you're short 3 or 4 million
I
in
think,
funding.
I think what's going on there is the first few years, not the full 900 is not being spent, it's being allowed to accumulate.
But Randy, I'm using the totals for the 10 years. I'm not saying 1 year is profitable, next year not, or whatever. I'm saying in 10 years, at 900,000 a year, you're gonna take in $9 million. I did very quick math, but in the same 10 years, you're gonna spend $13 million on the improvements he's proposing. There's 4 million shortfall. To me, there's several shortfalls I don't like the slurry, I'll tell you that right now, but taking that, I don't like saying, well, we're gonna use our city people to do the work, because they're free. They're not. We pay for every one of them. I don't believe you've got 5 extra men down there to do this work, Pete, every day. I mean, if we do, we got 5 people we need to get rid of till we get this truck. I mean, we're kidding ourselves to say, oh, we got free labor. It's not free labor.
It is a free labor.
So the figures are rather optimistic at best, through no fault of anybody's, except this is a typical city plan. He started off with a dream, and I believe that. That's all this is at this point, is a dream. Then he shows a plan. I'm not seeing any kind of a plan. This is still a dream. A plan would be to tell me that I'm gonna hire 5 men and this truck and this equipment and do so many blocks a week, a year, or whatever.
I'd like to finish the presentation, please.
Thank you. All right, so you can see what I'm trying to explain though, for the first 4 years, we're not spending all the 900K. At the very end of the 10 years, we still hope to be in surplus of the 128K. And it's the same thing that we would transfer into 2035, the transparency where, once again, we post how much we did for the project, what it entails, so that way we can continue to have the trust. I mean, that's what I'm trying to do here, is just build the trust with the people. That's what I'm trying to accomplish, and that's something that we hope to do through these projects, so we will see. But specifically, you can see Linden between 4th and 5th, North 6th, and Kansas Avenue, South Avocado, or to Avocado. Avocado from 6th West to 7th, and then Random Row from C Street to F Street. Like I said in the beginning, when I started presenting the numbers, that this is just a great area for us to start, make sure our guys are getting on the same page, they find a groove, and then we can start working through the city. Also, these areas, for instance, Random Row, they've had their lines replaced, their water lines. I know that was another big discussion that came up. Why would we replace a street, then the water line has to be replaced, so we rip up the street, and then we put another line down? The great thing is we're not going to put lines back underneath the street. We're going to put them in the right of way. Now, if for whatever reason we do have to get street access, we will go ahead and do a small trench into our line, hook up the new line, that will put an easement into the street, and then we're just going to leave the old pipe that's underneath the street, leave it alone. We're done with it. So our water lines going forward will be in the right of ways, and that's key for us, not putting it obviously back underneath the street. That hurts us. It makes no sense to rip up a street, lay a new line down, put a new street back on. It's just, we're wasting time and money, and that's something we want to do.
Where do sidewalks come into play in all this?
Specifically, what do you mean?
All the way up the path on Sunday, the sidewalks are just destroyed. And people have a hard time walking there. And that means people have a hard time spending money because they don't feel safe in traffic.
Sure.
So how about we appropriate some money toward the sidewalks also?
I think that's something we can definitely look into. Once again, that plan is not concrete, it's not for sure this is done, but once again, this is a discussion that we can have. And if we find that more and more people are interested in having certain sidewalks or certain areas due to the fact that they're deteriorating, then let's explore that for conversation. This is not sealed and I'm done and this is my way, not at all. This is just a conversation. I want to get this out to you, educate as much as possible, and explore the options we have.
Those trees are pretty uptown, but that's what's killing the sidewalks.
Yeah.
The beautification
Get them out.
group needs to quit putting trees up on Summit.
Yeah. Yes.
I have a couple of real quick questions. The slurry, is it done anywhere already in town?
In town, no.
Where in local?
Newton, they do it on a regular basis. Mountain Ridge does it.
We don't have anything like that here
No,
in this town.
no,
Two, are we talking about putting slurry on brick streets?
no. Slurry would be applied to your asphalt roads.
Brick streets
We
would
need-
not be affected by this
Correct.
plan.
The conversation has come up, what do we do with brick streets? They've done a wonderful job of lasting 100 some odd years. I love it. I come from Chicago, so seeing that for the first time, really, because it's not popular up there, it was beautiful to see. I like it. But once again, that needs to be a conversation. What do we do with our brick roads? Because a lot of them are in bad condition, and at some point, they do need to be addressed.
Let me just ask one more little quick question about this slurry.
Sure.
Is anyone affiliated with the city related to or have business relationships with the people that sell this machine and this slurry?
I'm from Chicago.
Good question.
No.
How did we find out about slurry?
How did we find out?
Yeah.
Our city manager, actually.
Yeah, it's a process I use in my previous city. It's a well-used process across the country.
But we have no personal, family, business.
Nobody's making money off it.
No.
Relationship to buy this.
No, I found out it from Randy. I did my own research. I've traveled up to Newton. I've seen those guys use it. I'm actually going.
Yeah, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, no
There's
money.
been some past mistakes made in the city of various areas.
Sure.
and I just wanna be
No.
sure.
Randy, I have a simple solution, maybe. Could we we sunset this sales tax at 5 years and stop the program if it's not working, or fund it on for 5 more?
So that particular, yeah, a specialized sales tax can sunset at whatever.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Yes, it could be. It could be.
Is that something the commission would be accepting? I'd be a lot less resisting if I got a 5-year test. Because I think I'm right, you know that.
Well, yeah,
But
I know you
I'm not
know
me,
you're
so
right.
in 5 years, I'm willing to back up and
We're
say.
still paying the tax on the hospital that's dying and closing down.
And we knew that when we voted for it, and I voted for
Well,
it, and
I
I
voted
supported
against
it,
it.
and I don't like it.
And we're
Because
still
it's
paying
not the
for it.
hospital I voted for, that's a
We're
shame.
still paying
This is
for
the
it.
same way, it could be a good deal, I'm not saying it's not,
Well,
I'm saying,
people are moving out of this county because
Okay.
no
to
hospital,
get back to my
we
question.
can't even give
Yes.
birth out there.
That
We
would
can't even
be. an
give
option.
birth out there.
I would say, because, and if you're gonna give truth, I mean, and I agree with him 100% on this, I don't often agree with him.
That's true, that's a good
But,
thing.
I think the city, because if you're gonna put this online and how much it was spent and show that what was being done, I think that would make people feel better. And then if you see that, then they say, okay, this has happened, here's what the results were, and people, say, hey, first time we don't see the results we're telling you, then we get rid of the tax.
One of the biggest problems I'm seeing right now, and this is a little unfair to your presentation, we're trying to vote out from under the revenue neutral flag so we can raise taxes. We hired somebody for $15,000 to tell us whether or not to raise water rates and how much. We've got a new sewer treatment tax. It's not a tax because it's going to be added to the sewer bill. And now I have said, all these things in most public's mind is a tax. You can call it whatever you want, but it's a tax. And we're getting hit 5 different ways in 6 months for projects. It's good ideas, every one of them.
Right.
But some point, I did some figures, and Randy, I don't know where you get your 11 million. I had a budget for the city at almost $30 million, and that includes the hospital.
I was just talking general fund only.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
so you have one, so that's.
The
that's
figures
the-
I had was $30 million, and there's 11,000 people in Arc City, makes each person paying $3,000 in some sort of tax. A family of 5 has to pay $15,000 in taxes right now. There's a lot of families, I think the average family income is $32,000 in Arc City. So half of their annual income is going to some sort of a tax, whether you call a water bill a tax or a trash bill a tax or a sewer bill a tax, it's a tax. And I think this is why we're getting so much resistance to new taxes and new ideas. I'm all for new ideas, sometimes they work. But I'm not for betting the family farm on a new idea. In 5 years now, waking up and realizing that green line didn't get done and the goal was half done, et cetera.
Understand, Lloyd?
I'm all for embodied discussion, ladies and gentlemen, but I'll walk you through this so we can have the embodied discussion. Thank you very much.
Fair.
All right, thankfully, I'm almost done. So, potential outcome, we've looked at parklets. They're a pretty neat idea. Most likely they won't be installed. What they do is they're installed right in front of restaurants, coffee shops. They generate an average of 21% income. It's just a new area, a new idea for people to sit down, relax, be downtown. I think we can all agree that our downtown needs to be revitalized. So there are different ways we can do that, but that doesn't mean we're spending money on a parklet. It's just an idea. The LED street signs, the M310E, that's your slurry machine, and then your paver that we'd be looking at. So here's my information. Any questions, concerns? If you're not able to stay around, you're more welcome to reach out to me. I'm happy to. I ended 4 minutes early. I think that's impressive. So obviously, if you need to go, please. But at this moment, I'd love to address comments, concerns from in person and online, if you're okay with that. So can we go online first?
I've seen any yet.
Can I get one question?
Yeah.
The 65,000 for the slurry machine, and then the 30,000 for the
65 and 35.
Yeah, okay. I worked for the city, and so I've seen the abuse that the machines take.
Yeah.
And even when they're taking, they take very good care of them, but they would wear out. Is there an option of leasing that, and would it, say we want to lease it for 5 months instead of buying it for 10 years?
I'm not aware of Burkamp leasing anything of that sort. It would be purchasing.
Right, well, it's right for sale.
I'm not aware of that.
Oh, but
I think
there's
for a
an option.
paver, that's an option. But Burkamp with their newest Gen 2 machine, I'm not aware after speaking with their salesperson and manager about that.
Are you aware of any contractor that is doing this type of work with their machine?
Contracts with Burkamp, yes. Yeah, they are doing it. But once again, it's getting back to the point of trying to keep things in-house where it's cheaper. And that's where we're trying to explore.
disagree, that's not always the cheapest way to do things. I used to think if I did everything myself, it was the cheapest until I screwed something up. And then it was more expensive. So let's take the other view and say, why don't we try a contract? Why don't we hire?
This did look a lot easier than the chip sealing that we're currently doing.
Oh, sure it is. Yeah, I don't disagree with, I've never argued the cheaper.
No, I said it looks easier. It looks like an easier job. The city guys can do it no
Yeah,
problem.
they don't have mops.
I have no doubt.
We're shoveling and doing hard work.
Right.
But saying that, you're not getting the material on the street is a bother to me. 3/8 material, my tread on my pickup is thicker than that. So it bothers me you're only putting 3/8 material. It may work fine, but I'm saying, why wouldn't we try a $100,000 contract with a contractor? I don't care how much, 10 blocks, 20 blocks, try it.
And then what?
See what it does, see if it holds up for a year. I wanna get it through a winter.
That's the problem.
I'm telling you, snow and ice, if there's any moisture underneath that pavement, I know from my trucks, I'll break that surface in a minute.
Right. And I understand what you're saying. I would love to test it out, but I think the beauty of this situation is that other towns have tested out for us. There's living proof there. And why would Arc City pay 151% difference to pay someone else to do the job?
Because
that
they're
we
getting
could
ready
do?
to do $13 million, a small bite.
The longevity of the project also is, what about the wear and tear? We can say that it will, but we don't know weather conditions from one year to another either.
Correct. I mean, it's Kansas. We're gonna experience all four
Always gonna be a
seasons.
problem. Streets and water and pipes are always gonna be a problem.
Yeah.
My only complaint is don't raise taxes, figure it out a different way.
And thank you for your opinion. And like I said, I still want to meet with you afterwards for some of your ideas that you have. I think it's imperative that we find out from the people how.
But I like the idea. I like the look of the idea. I think the city is beautiful. I mean, only being here 3 months, the people are great. There are problems just like anywhere, but coming from the million people, there's a lot of potential for your downtown. You have one of the most beautiful downtowns that I've ever been a part of. And if you could get more business to move into those, you wouldn't have to worry about a 0.5% sales tax increase because that would far outweigh any sales tax.
Sure.
So if you revitalize, you build up to get businesses to move in and start building them back up. And COVID was a hit for everyone.
I agree.
So I don't blame any officials or the closing of businesses solely on what the city has done, but also on outside sources. But coming from a large city, a 0.5% sales tax is not gonna solve the problems of the streets. It's not gonna make people happier. But if the people got together and were able to lower those taxes and still get the same outcome from what you're proposing, then you make it happen with the city, make the city grow.
I understand. I appreciate it. Lloyd?
The comments have been against the sales tax, and I can appreciate that. The comments have been against individuals, and I don't like that. Argue the content rather than attacking individuals. What I have yet to hear from anybody in this room is if we don't do the 0.5% sales tax, what are we going to do? And the streets need to be fixed. The infrastructure, not just water, the whole infrastructure needs to be fixed in this city. There are buildings as nice as they are downtown that would not attract a businessman to come to because the buildings need to be fixed. So if you're not going to be for something, please tell me what you are for.
Okay, this city should be held responsible. They sold a piece of land on Summit for $1. $1. What's the market value of that land? They've loaned the hospital $1 million. Haven't got it back yet.
You're unhappy with the hospital, we all get that.
They came up with a master plan for Wilson Park. Oh, well, that's not good. Let's throw that out the door. After they promised everybody a new library over on the old hospital ground and all this, and splash pad, the quality of life in this town has gone downhill, and all we do is get tax, tax, tax. I live on an income. I live on a budget. I can't afford to live in this town no more. I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma. The only reason I'm here is my mother-in-law is elderly and needs me to take care of her. That's the only reason I'm here, because I liked this city until I got to know it. And the city commission has broken promise after promise after promise. and I think it's time for them to go, the three that's up for reelection. I think it's time for the new group to come in with some new ideas and solve this problem.
And you still haven't answered the question.
Maybe-
Why?
maybe you should run for commissioner.
Without the asset sales tax.
Well,
If we
they
can,
just
sir.
paid $15,000 to have somebody tell our city manager that how much your water bill is gonna go up. Okay, is he not smart enough to figure out how much the water bill is gonna go up?
Sir,
He is now.
can I stop you for a second? Tonight was all about our street and the house.
Yeah, but everybody needs to
Can
look
I have the
at the
floor,
picture.
please? I gave it to you. I would like to keep this as respectful as possible.
Yes.
Just a cordial conversation, back one second.
Yes.
Cordial
All I'm
conversations.
saying is.
I heard you,
look at the
and I
big
appreciate
picture.
it. There's a lot of unhappiness and I get it. And all I'm trying to do is just present an option. That's it. There's nothing guaranteed. And I get it. The gentleman in the back, I appreciate all your feedback and we may disagree, but at the end of the day, I think we have the same mindset that we're trying to make this place better. And that's what I want to do with you. So if we can do that, if we can agree on that, that's a start. You got a question?
I do, and I appreciate your vision. I want our city better. It services me as well. But have you driven north lately,
How far north?
out of town?
Yeah.
Have you driven south into town?
Yeah.
That's pretty shitty. I'm sorry, pretty crappy. Apologize, I didn't mean to do that. We can't even keep up with 1/8 of a mile. What are we doing with what we have?
Right.
And if 6 people on your payroll could fix this, I'd be all for it. Sure. I just don't think that's the case. I don't think that the general public is unhappy with what they have. They should vote. They should make that change.
Sure.
If you got a problem, make a change. But we also share a little bit of distrust.
I understand.
Throughout the city in our leadership for some reason or another. Doesn't matter what it is. But if you want your plan to succeed, I think we need to see some assurance that it's going to happen. Show that you mean it. Show that we can do something with what we have, and instead of, I mean, it's not just that one section, but that's a pretty good intersection. I mean, coming into town, that's the first thing you see.
Sure.
And when you leave, it sure lets you know you're gone.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. That should be easy fix, right? And we should be on that. So I'd like to see the city come up with a contingent. What are you gonna do if this doesn't go?
Sure.
What can we do to fix it now? And what is anything expired? Do we have any tax revenue that's gonna be expiring that we can utilize? Or are we just stuck at 9% for the rest of the time being, plus whatever we decide in the future?
Yeah, it would be 8.5 and then sunset after 10, but yeah.
I apologize.
No, you're fine. And I think those are valid questions. I think they're fantastic questions. That's something that realistically, we can have a conversation with our management team, with the guys that are involved, and what can we do? I mean, that's all I'm trying to do is present options. What can we do with our streets? We're doing the same thing with our water lines. What can we do to replace them? Tony?
Yeah, I'd like to answer his question on that south end there. 6 guys can fix that street, but they don't have the equipment to do it.
I thought we
And the
had,
reason
I
is
thought
the
we
machines
said,
weren't bought by the forefathers.
Okay.
So Chad Beeson can sit there and verify that concrete intersections just started 2 years ago.
And there,
We've always had.
have you seen the ones on, where are they on?
I'm talking about
They're
north,
on
you said
Second
south.
Street and B Street.
Right,
We just
and
started.
they're beautiful, they did a great job.
And
Oh,
it's
yeah, there's
by
a
people
lot of
planning ahead and trying to move forward on long-term fixes. We're not out to put a Band-Aid on anything, because it's our tax dollars too.
Right, but they're in
We
the
want to
Band-Aid on it.
expand, right, and in order to do it right, we've got to have the proper equipment.
How old is the machine you're using right, how old is the chip seal machine that you're using right now? Cause I saw that sucker, I've seen these guys work on it, trying to get it just to putter through in the summer.
Probably late 70s or 80s.
There's a problem right there, they don't have the equipment.
So I agree with that, but I'm not talking about chip sealing out north.
Right.
I'm talking about fixing the street.
I know what you mean.
Didn't they rebuild it?
Right. My point was they're using machines from the 70s and, I mean,
I don't want to.
No, I'm not saying that they don't do their job. I'm saying that we have a lot of things that aren't being done currently. And we're proposing new things to be done.
It's hard to put Band-Aids on with 70-year-old machines, so that's what I was trying to say.
Right.
So
But we
either
don't-
way, we need to buy something new to help out.
Right, and I agree. I'm just saying that we don't even have a Band-Aid on currently.
Right.
Sir?
Well, let's everybody go back to driving Model Ts. And this is one of our problems now.
You're like a Model A, huh?
Streets are in here now, and we've got traffic on it that weighs 40 times more than what the street was designed for. The street's not gonna hold up.
Right.
So we might as well just decide that we're gonna do something to try to keep our streets in.
Sure.
You know, in your presentation, I didn't hear anything about Sleep Edition. Are you gonna do anything in Sleep Edition? That
We would.
board edition's been down there for years, and
We
you
would
don't
love
hear
to.
them complaining about their streets.
We would love to.
But we can, you know, and let me use Jim Seibert for an example. Let one of his big trucks go down Summit Street. That street wasn't designed for Summit Street. To carry that truck and its many pounds, and take one of the trucks that's hauling cattle from Rodeo come in, or Creekstone, I'm sorry. Our streets weren't designed for that, and they have deteriorated. So we're gonna be out money. We can sit here and say all we want to about it. Can't do this, can't do that. Hey, over the years, evolution has caught up with us.
Yes, sir.
What I'd like, I came down here in the beginning because I was upset that we don't use our people. We don't use them because we don't give them the proper equipment. And what was said a while ago was exactly right. We haven't had the foresight in the past to get what we need to keep going and keep replacing. Why do you have equipment that was from 1970? That equipment should have been being repaired. Somebody should have been thinking a little bit there, instead of always wanting to give a contract to somebody outside the city. We had a contract, supposedly, we were gonna draw in more businesses to Ark City. We spent, I can't remember how many $1,000s on that contract. I'm scratching my head trying to find where that new business is. Oh, I guess we got one across the street.
No.
I don't think that was worth what we paid
Well, he's
for
still
somebody
hunting,
else.
I think that dude's still hunting. They changed his contract a little bit. That headhunter guy, didn't they drop his wage a little bit?
No,
He's
monthly. We're down, he's on the way out now.
Oh, is it?
One second.
Don't take my
inflation numbers
dibs
built
out
into the
because it
cost
cuts
of
your
that.
feeders down.
To your projected, because, and thank you so much for bringing that up. I completely forgot to bring that up. The reason
What
why
was the question?
was inflation built into that. The reason I
Extra
forgot,
manpower was also added into that.
thank you, Tony, I want to go back.
How many?
How many men?
Yeah.
Men and women, there was projected 4 to add to the street crew. You have 8 right now, is that correct?
Yes.
Well, that's skewed, sorry.
We're full.
Yeah.
Now, if we're getting into that do-it-ourselves stuff, you know, most of these streets have water lines in them.
Sure.
We don't run a directional bore machine, to my knowledge, do they?
No.
That could be a pretty handy thing to have.
You have to see the water
You know.
department makes money. The streets department didn't charge you a dime. We ain't making any money, Steve. You can
So-
drive all day on some of the streets, they don't charge you a penny.
The water department isn't making money because they had to hire somebody for 15 grand to tell them how much to charge them.
Well, yeah, they can
You know
do
what-
that 15 grand, no, we can't.
So, and I want to go back to the 10-year outlook.
That's the truth.
A lot of the question of what I heard was, why are we starting in 25? Because 23 would be the conversation, would be the starting point. Do we introduce a half-cent sales tax? Would the commissioners push it to where the citizens take a vote? And then from there, 24 would be collecting the funds, and then 25 would be starting. I just want to clarify that. That's why we'd be starting at 25. You had a question?
I just was wondering, I know this is a very small town in comparison to most places, but is it possible that big corporations that we have that have properties here can help the city fund some of the projects that are, because I hate to say where I come from, but I've seen other companies in other towns.
Sure.
Because their companies benefit from their location and from the people in the area, and it's just giving back. And they could, like, Canpac, I think, is expanding over to the intersection of the back part of town. And so, you know, they could help out with the intersection there and the sidewalks, et cetera.
We are exploring that, yes.
Okay.
That's not something that's gone unnoticed. So we are looking into those options of how we can utilize those companies. And if we're going to take the elephant in the room, creeks on the water, how can we utilize that? So that is being explored. Possibilities are there, but we just need to have these conversations and start planning. You have, having you wait for a while.
Well, and that's fine. I want to give everybody else a chance, because I have 2 or 3 comments. And I've done quite a bit of research on this entire proposal, and much of it's come out tonight, but we're getting the cart way before the horse to attack the streets. The first attack needs to be the water lines. That's where we spent the money this year fixing unnecessary repairs, I call them. They weren't. They were breaks. They were breaks because they're 50, 70-year-old pipes. We know they're there. We know they need replaced. Our water treatment plant right now has how much surplus fund, Randy, today? Like $1.8 million?
The water treatment plant?
Yeah, well, the water, what do you, department?
Water department, yeah.
Has $1.8 million excess fund right now that could be used to pay the $100,000 test strip on the street. It could be used to start replacing some of these pipes and valves, the valving being one of the key ones. It could be used to loop the pipes that we were promised in my neighborhood 30 years ago when I was taken in.
I think those guys that made that promise are dead.
Well, but that's one thing I want to cover tonight, because there's been speculation against the commission or the public. Folks, we're on a 2-year system. I only see 2 commissioners in this room right now. That's 3 of them that didn't care to come down here because they were invited. So, and we're getting ready to elect 3 new ones.
Well, these 2 gentlemen have only been here 2 years.
And I understand all this. What I'm saying is we're a revolving door. So to blame this commission for something that happened 20 years ago is not fair. The foresight of those people 20 years ago is if we can get by with this, we won't have to raise taxes. At some point, I'm saying raising taxes is not my total enemy, but I want to do it fairly. I do not like having almost $11 million in surplus funds and being told I need $900,000 more money this year. That rings the wrong bell with me. I don't like this system because I don't know enough about it. I'm going to study it some more before I get there. So I offer a suggestion only that we do a test someplace so we can show the public. We need to quit reacting to everything that comes up. We try this every time. We've got to do something immediately because it's on the board right now. We've got to pass it and whatever. And it gets this kind of resistance. Instead, if we took tonight's meeting as a stepping stone and say, folks, we studied this a little bit. We listened to the public. We think we need to study and look at replacing water lines first and going to our utility companies and having them replace utility lines. There's nothing worse than it happened in my neighborhood. 4 of us, including Randy's house, went together and paved the street right out in front of my house between Randy and I. We're neighbors, by the way. He didn't speak to me most of the time, but we're neighbors. We put that street in. 3 weeks after we put the street in, the gas company come out and tore up the street and put gas lines in. They didn't know we were going to put that street in. We paid for that out of our pockets. It wasn't city street. It was 4 of us went together and said, we're going to pave this much street. Paid for it, and the gas company come out there and tore it up. We're getting ready to do the same thing, even if it's just a slurry system. Once they have to tear that street up, you now have to fix the brick underlay, the cement under that, if it's cement, all the layers back up, and then maybe bring your slurry truck back over. Although 3/8 of an inch bump, I ain't gonna worry about this.
On your water lines, I live in an area that they put the new water lines in. They didn't tear up one street.
No,
they were all along. So I don't think, I agree that fixing the water lines is
They're
right.
using all polymer, plastic and whatever,
Right.
that they can shove under the street, they can fix it easily.
Right.
So, my first proposal, if I was on a commission, and God knows I did it for 4 months and that's all I ever want to be on now. Saying that, I would propose that we get with the city water department. Randy?
That's what we've been working on.
Yeah, that's what I
Okay,
said.
then where are you at on getting the plumbing in our city fixed first? I don't want to hear another street being repaired until the
So
city.
where we're at is we have a master plan here to tackle the lines that are bad, the problems that are out on the east of the Walnut. And the water analysis that we're doing is very complicated. It isn't just something you want us to just throw together.
You're not gonna do it tomorrow, I know that.
So we have a analysis working on the rates right now. We did a kind of a quick and dirty rate analysis. And our current rate structure, if we were to do the things we needed to do, would have been a very heavy burden on residential water rate users. And so that's why we've hired the consultant to help us dig in. Our current structure is weighted to residential, and we need to take a deep dive into it and make sure that the users of the water system that are actually causing the burden on the system, putting the strain on it, or picking up more of the cost. So that's one of the reasons that we're doing the deep dive in the analysis of the water rates. But that's where we're at now is we have a master plan.
But would you agree that we're kind of putting this cart before the horse? If we do the water, get the water lines, and work with, somebody needs to notify Evergy and Gas Service and whoever. Well, guys, we're getting ready to do these streets. We'd like for you to get any repairs you see coming in the next 5 years done.
And that's exactly what you do when you do a complete rebuild on a street. You redo all the utilities that are in there in the process. I'm just a simple chip seal or just a maintenance item, maybe not so much unless there's just an item in there that an area that's already scheduled. But yeah, definitely when we do major construction on the roads, you're going to be doing.
Along them lines, can I ask you, Mr. Beeson, mentioned the directional boring on that water line?
I was gonna say, so we really don't have to.
That was up in the Brad Meek area, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wasn't that about $1 million expenditure? And those lines in that area were 90 years old?
I think,
No.
no.
On the south end of town, we got Presto lines that don't have pinhole pressure. We got retired people living down there that are constantly having and throwing water down. But my point, that was upgraded to provide better fire protection.
That happened just as I came in. I believe it was undersized lines in there. Yeah.
Undersized line, on what basis? Were fire protection 5, they had, my goodness, the hydrants are everywhere, they're pump nozzles, they had 4-inch lines, high pressure. That was bizarre. As a citizen, a little familiar with the water system, I thought, what in the world are they wasting $1 million for? And that's where we're at. And so when you get to the trust issue, I don't eat 2 hamburgers when I could. I eat 1 because I can't afford it. And you see our money that we pay and struggle to, and there's no justification for it. There's not. $1 million is $1 million. Would buy us a couple machines these boys want. And then you got your rules, I know. Water used to not be able to be applied towards other things, supposed to stay in the environmental department.
We already transferred money from water to general.
Well, I've understood that kind of always, but you know what I mean? You get these stories. I know what everybody said. Now, why he's wanting to, only thing I would bump on his test deal, you run a test on a little section of road, but you're not gonna know if it held up for 3, 4, 5 years.
I'm trying to subject to our weather conditions.
Yo, I'm with you
and
100%
residential
on it.
streets. I'm saying.
But how do you accelerate the results?
I
So
can
that
take that wrong, come back in a year and tell you how to do it. That's what I'm telling you.
Well,
You're not
I
gonna see,
get it.
see it break down and Gator and everything
Yeah,
else.
if you go
You can tell.
possibly.
If it's wearing properly or wearing, like the coating that Randy put on his driveway, I promise you, in 2 years, it'll be as great as my driveway. But it may preserve his driveway a little bit.
And we don't
I
talk
don't know.
about it.
I didn't say something because I don't believe it. That's.
One sec, hang on, remember I promised to go in here question and then on there, I guess we have one.
We have one comment. It says, I see once more, it is all for the north end of town, nothing for us on the south end.
Sure, and once again, that would be up for the the possibility we can move around. That was just given based upon our in-house crews of where they would prefer to start. That doesn't mean we're focusing, let's just say, all 10 years on one specific area. That would just be a test run, get her through, understand, get everybody on the same page, and then we'd start focusing on different areas of town. We would not spend all 10 years in one area, north, south, anything of that sort. You have this.
I think the proposal is great, but I have one question. If you don't do the 0.5%, where are you gonna get the money?
So,
So ultimately, no matter what, you have to raise taxes 0.5%.
not necessarily. We would continue to go back to using the resources and manpower that we currently have, which would be the estimated 60K and then one large street replacement, utilizing the grants. And that's what we would continue to do until we can try to identify more areas of revenue, if possible, and explore opportunities to replace our streets.
And I'm not saying I'm completely opposed to 0.5% if those things
Sure.
have to happen.
Sure.
But just saying, if those things don't happen, where is the money gonna come from?
Tony may give up his wage to be part of it. I'll talk to Tony.
He needs to retire anyway.
He may, that's
Yeah.
right. He may
He can
just
start
in and hire a
donating.
cheaper guy.
Thanks. Somebody else had a question for us on?
This gentleman right here.
Yes, yes.
So I was gonna ask, do you know how long Newton has had their stuff down?
Yeah, that is, I need to find out exactly when, and that's something that we were talking.
Well, because he was talking about doing a test run.
Sure.
If you find out how long Newton's had it,
Yeah.
they've had it for 4 or 5 years.
They've
There's
had
your
it longer.
test run. You don't have to spend $100,000 on a contract.
They've had it longer than that. Whenever we implemented it in my prior city, Newton was one of the cities that we right with to learn about it, and so, yeah, they've had it.
You can take somebody over the video, have them drive down the road and get out and show the road, and bring it back and show it here, and everybody's like, wow, all right, that looks pretty good. Or, no, I don't like it.
Just go to the phone and see what it works. Yeah, it's like I drive up Newton all the time, it's fine.
Yeah, and once again, this is all about having conversation. I appreciate your feedback. Anyone else who's spoken up about this, this is just a conversation. That's all I'm trying to do is, my job is how can we improve our city, specifically the infrastructure. That's what I'm focusing on, and that's what I want really.
You know, I was actually, just one more comment I have. Is what part of that is part to fix the bricks?
Say again, I'm sorry?
What part of that fund is to fix the brick roads?
There was money allocated from year 1 to year 10,
Okay.
specifically for brick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is what process? I didn't get that part of it. What are you gonna do to brick streets?
Same thing we've always done, just brick them.
Brick and back.
Oh, you mean pick up the bricks, put them back?
And the good news about that, you can do that in the cold.
Well, that's true. The brick streets are pretty indestructible.
Yes, they are.
But we're also getting some bad areas where they've taken them out for different, sometimes the same water meter down, or not water meter, water valve, has been taken out several times. And now they're getting a settlement amount. If I've got a house down on C Street, it's got a health pothole in it.
Yeah. Well, did you have a question?
This brick street shouldn't be.
Go ahead. I'll come back to it.
Anybody else have a question? Yes, sir.
I got a question, and I agree with Mr. Seibert. I don't understand your numbers, and I'm pretty simple, so if you can explain it to me. The end contract, if I read that graph right, when it's done, you spent $1.3 million, whatever it is. You only took in 900,000.
Sure.
His complaint was you have a $400,000 discrepancy.
Per year.
Yes.
Not all years though.
Could there be a plan, I mean, to help, but I mean, we know can we agree there's some discrepancy, right? There's more at the end than what's coming in.
Sure.
So can there be a plan, if this was voted in, to where these funds could be in a position where they are earning a yield and interest that would help generate, you could have $500,000 left over from that year, right? And that money is generating and rolling forward into the next year. Because if you say 500 in the first year, you're going to give back 300 in the next year. That goes away. If I understand that correctly.
Sure.
So I think that's what he's trying to say, is it isn't there.
He showed it exactly that way. It's the 4th year he went in the hole because he spent $800,000 on one project and continued the rest. So the ultimate result of 10 years was 13 million in expenditure, 9 million. And so you got almost $4 million short.
So
grants are guaranteed.
No, they're not.
So whatever money is not used in that previous year,
No.
if that money is able to earn interest and it's earmarked toward that. I mean, you got two things going on.
Right.
You're talking about something, yes, it needs to be done, but what I'm hearing is not sold quite on the plan. And certainly the sales tax is a question, but the other thing is the trust issue. There's three things boiled into this trust issue. And so if there's a trust issue that can be battled and that money is charged to the people, and the people can then pay their taxes. And as that money comes in, only $500,000 may be used and 400,000 left over. If it's earmarked and it's touched and it's earning interest, only because RCP Bank is here tonight, it's earning interest in the bank, right? And it rolls forward, can there be I don't even know how it works, but can that be something that can be done?
Yeah,
Which
absolutely.
ensures the people.
Yeah, those dollars.
Take that money where it will rent.
Through that, sales tax ballot, initiative, that money would be dedicated totally to streets. It would have to be, it couldn't be spent on anything else other than what the ballot, what you.
But can the leftover be invested in short term?
Absolutely, yeah.
Where it can be, generate money on it. That's what I'm.
At the start of your meeting, didn't you give us a figure about how much as tax revenue is getting spent towards streets?
Yes,
How much was it?
And those dollars would continue to be spent.
That's what I'm getting at, as far as the difference on the early years and then as it progresses. As I understood it, you're still collecting your 900 in your revenue for the first 4 years, but you're rat holding that money before you're just laying it to the side and it's starting to kick in the projects 2-3 years down the road. But if we still got that figure out of the existing tax, how much was it?
So on the street budget, we have about $811,000 just in 22. This is the 22 numbers. And then in our special highway fund, it was 858,000.
But that money's still gonna be there.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
For streets, so we'd be going into a deal where you got 900 from a sales tax revenue dedicated only to that, and you're still kicking in another 750 or whatever you said, 800,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Gentlemen, is interested in grants. That's part of your job is getting grants. Like, how successful have you been?
Last year, I was 3 out of 5. This year, 2. I'm still waiting on pending. I don't want to give an answer on that yet. So it's pending. But yeah.
Grants for
Pretty good at it.
roads or what? What are you
Next year.
talking about?
The most recent grant that we got approval was for Blue Cross Blue Shield at the
Congratulations.
Lovey Watson Park, excuse me. That's for 50 grand. We'll do some upgrades, but it takes a little time planning and getting everything implemented. So that'd be great for specifically that park. Is there another question? I'm sorry. Is there another question?
That was it.
Yes, sir.
Pardon my, what I was going to say, ignorance, because I don't do politics very well. That's why I don't speak.
Neither does anybody.
I get myself in trouble real easy. We just talked about, I think Steve asked if you could earmark that money. Okay, and there's already, seems to be a trust issue, but when the city residents pay for their water right now, do they know that part of that's going to go to the streets? And my question is, in that Ford water, we're already robbing Peter to pay Paul? Is that correct?
Yeah, so there is a transfer from each utility into the general fund to help keep taxes down.
Okay. But is it earmarked, or is it?
No more, no, yeah.
General fund.
It's a general fund, even your water is a general fund.
No. So we have so the water system has its own fund. And it takes care of the people, everything that takes increased water from the flow bills to.
Right, I get that part.
Okay, so then, along with that, because like I said earlier, our current sales tax and property taxes don't generate enough funds to even pay for fire and police, then we do also transfer some dollars from water, sewer, into the general fund to help offset those.
Do you see where my point is going though? At some point down the road, are we going to say, there's $3 million in that street fund, we can just borrow it, you pay for this?
Yeah, so on the sales tax piece of it, there's going to be a ballot that we're before you go on. It didn't say specifically what those are. So it would have to be that purpose.
I thought
Thank you.
a few years ago, when they wanted to build this treatment plant, that the reason why we needed a new treatment plant was because funds from the water department were being funneled into the general fund, and they weren't maintaining the old water treatment plant because the money was being funneled into the general fund. Now you're telling me that we're funneling money back into the general fund?
There are some dollars transferred from utilities in the general fund to operate.
So.
There also is a reason for that.
The good news is that means the water's making money.
Creekstone Farms, and I keep calling it Campac, but it's now, help me.
Campac Works.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Golden State.
they preferred this type of water in their production. They agreed to pay enough to almost pay for this plant we're sitting in.
Okay.
So there, and somebody back here mentioned that we need to go to industries. Our two growingest industries in our city are contributing more to the income of the city of Arc City than probably all us taxpayers residentially. I don't know that to be a fact.
So
Randy,
we're not
close.
taking.
Residences is only about a third of the income of the cities.
We're not taking funds out of maintaining this new property.
This property is making money for the city.
So if
Because of
we're not
the-
gonna run this place down by not maintaining.
No,
Okay.
and it'll provide you quality water because
Right.
of two industries. My
Right.
point is, you don't always look at the industry and say they're not doing their share, they're doing more than their share. The problem is, your house and my house is 50 yards from Randy's. They've got to run a water line that far between houses, and it supplies 2 1-inch meters. The packing plant buys 50% of the water from Arc City, 50% of the total water. Well, whatever it is, I don't mean to be.
In revenue or in volume?
Volume.
Exactly.
The revenue's right behind it. The profit
Well-
on because the volume you create the volume on very little extra money for electricity and so on. So the profit is also 50% coming out of there, even though they pay a much lower rate than United. But my point is, to get the water to you and I's house and to replace these water lines is so much more expensive that probably we're gonna see a residential water rate increase. That's what bothers me, is we're gonna see the sewer rate, is the sewer already being paid, I mean, the new sewer treatment plant, are we already paying that in our sewer rates?
Yes.
So if you're already paying it, there's about a $2 million over budget if it ends up there, and that's not a fact yet. It probably is gonna raise your sewer rate yet again.
What are you thinking?
The sewer plant is coming in about 2 million over budget. Where's it at?
It's coming in right at where we budgeted.
11 million?
We had built in a contingency for some.
Okay,
extra things.
you're coming in with your contingency,
Yes.
you're still 2 million over budget, in my opinion. Two ways to look at the same thing. Anyway, so you may see a tap in your sewer line. I don't know what we're gonna do with garbage next. I don't know. This is where my comparison to $3,000 per person
Yes.
is going to some sort of and I call it tax. It's not.
Yeah.
It's your water rate, your sewer rate, your trash rate, your.
Service.
Even your.
A service, not a tax.
Yeah.
You're paying for water because you owe money for your water.
Even your cable
Well-
TV, there's a tax on that cable TV, it comes straight back to the city. Your
Right.
electric bill pays a tax directly back to the city.
Yes, all of them.
All of those amount to $3,000 per person to get to the $30 million budget of the cities. And you divide 11,000 into $30 million, we're paying 3,000 per person. So if there's 5 people in your family, you're paying 15,000 a year in some sort of a tax, excise fee, or service.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
For a family, our family income, our household income average in Cali County is like $33,000. That's half of
But
their
your
annual
sewer
income.
rate, Jim, your sewer rates are established off your water rate.
Yes.
If your water rate goes up, your sewer rate goes up.
Exactly.
And so when they establish that, whether or not when they come in with new water rates, they automatically get a sewer rate increase when they raise the water rate.
It's based on the volume of water.
Yes. And your sewer is gonna be a minimum, well, everything's, got some in-district budget. My total point was, you're gonna pay $3,000.
Yeah,
per person.
I agree with you.
And I think that's too high. I think we've gotta find ways to cut corners. And I hate using that term, but that's what I'm after, is some way to cut some expenses.
Yeah.
The generating income, I only know of about 3 ways to generate income in the city. Growth is the best possible alternative for everyone. You get growth in industrial growth, where would we be?
Describe growth though with, are you talking about population growth or real estate growth?
Growth to me is growth in jobs, growth in housing, growth in gross production. That's growth that we all can live on. That's the number 1 source. Number 2 source for a city is a tax or fee. That's one that hurts us. We don't like to see. Number 3 is grants from the federal government. That's still unionized money. I don't look at it when people do. That's my money coming back to our city.
And I think it's.
So it's still a tax.
We do have a question. Yes, sir.
My big thing is, I see our Kansas City sitting here, you just said it a few minutes ago, we've got 2 major employers here that are driving the city right now.
No, we got 2 growing. I'm not gonna take it away from them. We've got some good industry. Skyline has been here 50, 60 years.
But we need to
Our
draw
growing is
more
one
of
of our
those
largest employers, it's rating. There's a lot of people, but there's 2 growth that are contributing to the people coming to town, more kids in our school. Our school system would survive with the 10 member package.
Yeah, but those 2 industries too, Jim, they're putting the greatest stress on our infrastructure.
How so?
On water
they're
and
not
sewer
paying
line.
it to themselves.
They're paying for it. That's what I'm saying. They're the
Well-
ones paying the expense.
Well,
I'm glad they're there.
didn't they get some kind of, I'm just thanking you for your deal. Didn't they get some kind of tax break to go out there? Don't
Sure they
not have?
Sure they have.
Uh,
And that'll also come off. I know, packing plants are already paying taxes now.
And
Yeah,
when we're.
They have a
there's
10-year
still some rolling off.
One of the things people don't understand, when they got a 10-year tax bill, that meant just that. They didn't pay taxes on that agreement for 10 years. Guess what? That one disappeared. Now they're paying full taxes on that
Okay,
agreement.
great.
But that's not the end of the story. After they bought it for $30 million, they spent $60 million on it.
And they
That
got,
one comes off in 3 more years, and they increase another $60 million value for the city. And then there's $100 million one that comes about 5. So
Expansion
believe
on
me, that we gave them a little, like we do everything, like you
Put a
train a
carrot.
kid, you give them a carrot, you get them across the road. And they brought with them all the jobs and some problems. I agree that the trucks, some of the other things are a problem in certain areas. There's certainly a problem in my office out there. I have 20 trucks lined up on that street is criminal. That we should go to Creekstone first. I tried to get AC Industries to take a piece of that corner and make an acre or 2 parking lot to get them off the street. Nobody will do that. They're gonna get somebody killed out there one of these days. And that's a shame. We ought to be blamed. The city, that's outside the city. Well, the packing plant is not outside the city. The road is. That's one of these gray areas. Our county won't work very well with our city.
Why?
I don't know that. Randy, could you tell me why that is?
I think you get along fine.
Hey, Randy, I got a question.
You ignore
As you go out of Winfield, I want to say 2 years ago, I was driving on the road, full dry when it happened. There was a red lady that went down. Was that slurry or, out going, like going to Oxford?
Seemed like it was like,
It was a red slurry. I mean, it was a
I thought it
red.
was more of a rubber material.
Yes, that's what it felt like. That's why I wondered if that was a slurry. And if that is a slurry,
I know
it
they
sure
did-
looks like it works really good.
Back in that time, they did a whole bunch of different road tests.
Yes.
They did it, on, the road to, off K-15 over to,
Oxford.
no.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Douglas. Butler Road.
Right.
Butler Road got a bunch of that.
But I wonder if it is, and if it is, it's held up real well.
Yeah, slurries is emulsion oil with concrete and then the aggregate. And you can adjust the thickness of it by the size of the aggregate. So, I think we used a 5/8 aggregate when we were there, if I recall.
I was just curious.
Now,
I
you
mean,
need
they were looking
to
for a road
get
that
a
done. I
I
wonder if it
remember
was
that.
done.
I don't remember now, I'll have to look at
It
that.
had to be a small, it had to be almost sand to get a 3/8 of an inch cover.
Yeah, no,
You
it,
can't have anything as big as 3/8 of an inch. or it's
it,
big out of
it isn't big rocks like you see with chips.
No, I know.
It is more of
It's
a
sand.
sand looking stuff. It really-
And it's a water base.
Yeah.
To me, water and oil don't mix. I don't know how they think that's gonna last.
It does, though. I mean, it does.
I did have one more question about the slurry itself. It said it can be trucked in from other locations, am I correct?
Yeah, so what you do, you have to buy a tank of it because of the emulsion oil. It's not something that you mix it. So you purchase it, and it has a shelf life, and so you have to use that tank.
What's the shelf life set up and work out of?
We actually, that's how the city does it with the road oil, when they do the chip sealing.
Right.
They'll buy a tanker at a time, they'll bring it in, they'll drop it off, we call them when we're done with it, they come pick it up and then bring us another one. So, yeah, it's the same way.
But you're talking like a semi-tank?
Yeah, you just pump it in your truck.
Does it have to stay hot? Does it
No,
have to stay?
no, it doesn't have to heat like the other oils.
Is the shelf life because of the mixture? Is
Yeah,
it
it's that
separating?
water
That's
oil.
what I was thinking, yeah.
So is
You
that what
mix
sets,
water
is
and
that
oil,
what
it's
sets
gonna
it up?
separate.
Is the chemical mixture as it's laying?
Yeah, it's the concrete and the emulsion oil, it sets up harder than it is.
Now, it's all in
So
one
it's not
tank, so it
necessarily
comes
pre-mixed?
pre-mixed.
No, so the emulsion oil is pre-mixed. And then you have to have a pile of rock and you have to have your concrete. So you have bins on the truck, where you, one bin for the oil, one bin for the concrete, one bin for the aggregate.
Okay.
And then that box on the back truck mixes it up proportionally to what you need.
Okay. It did look, one other thing about it, it did look a little thin coming out of the back. I don't know much about mud. Can you be laid on an incline without having sagging or rippling?
Yeah, it doesn't run or anything. Okay. And it does do, with the screens and stuff, it does do a nice job of filling in some of the, I mean, not, it won't fill all of the unevenness, it'll kind of even out the surface as well.
That was one thing I was gonna ask, I saw the picture. It looked to me like the road they did through an addition up there, they had gone ahead of it and put all the oil.
Yeah, it cracks.
All those crack places sealed all along the road, they have to be sealed ahead of time. There's a
Yeah.
lot more work than just driving a truck down there.
No, I get that. I saw that.
Yeah, you definitely need to crack some before you.
That alone will help the street surface last a lot longer, so.
She has a question for you, Randy.
I was just curious if the company that ABM, is it ABM, that large corporation? Because I travel a lot around the country and I notice they're all over. Do they contribute also as far as grant money or fund money to the city?
Since I've been here, they haven't like contributed to excess, but they pay taxes and.
Yeah, I understand
all
that for
stuff.
sure, but I
As
mean.
far as, yeah, and maybe somebody who's been around longer.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about when I say asking the corporations to kick in. I'm not talking about their regular taxes. I know everybody has a requirement to pay taxes, but I'm talking about supporting the city that they benefit from their location. It's done everywhere, and the slurry thing, for you gentlemen that are scared about the slurry, that's done all across the country. I come from a place where the town was dirt roads, and we came up and rode our horses up and tied them so we could go to the store on one side of the freeway, and it is now one of California's biggest tourist attractions, and it's beautiful. The slurry works, it doesn't have to be tested, it's done everywhere. And it's been around for a long, long time, just not here. Newton, I drive up there all the time to go to the hospital and some other places while I'm there because they have them. Beautiful roads, just so you know.
So, hey, one second.
I have a question. This concerns something currently going on. The overpass over by the middle school, we have a major sinking problem and it's turned into a launching ramp if you're going westbound. And you drop down about 8 inches when you come off on the west side. Is that in city's jurisdiction or is that county or state?
That would be in St. Louis.
Is it railroad?
I don't know. We'll have to do some
Check the
research on
railroad
it.
maintenance on that. I think it's a possibility of railroad.
Yeah.
Might be responsible for it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because I got the same problem there that we had on the roundup, the bypass several years ago.
We had, down here on the south end of that, we had to rebuild that.
Yes, sir.
No, there's,
You have a question?
Okay, before I was interrupted a while ago, what I'm saying is, we said that we've got
two
Sort
major
of kind of getting back.
employers right now and some of the things that's helping.
I've been meaning to meet you.
My thought is that we need more of those major employers. And we need to have a decent looking city, just like you. What happened to you when you first came to the city, your first experience? You hit our roads and you said, what the heck?
Were you going too fast? Because that usually
I mean, full disclosure, I am from Chicago. And we
I'm
speak, so
saying these
that-
side streets
that-
are
yeah.
just for a reason.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie about that. I may have been a few miles per hour over.
But when you come into the town, what you see as some of the big employers is not good. We need to do some things to correct that. I'm dead set against taxes, especially after our property taxes and what happened to those last time. But I'm for a 1/2 cent sales tax if that will actually work. My thing to you is, we've got trust issues because we've been lied to way too many times for way too many years. If we could see, and maybe we need to say it's talking about taxes so we can get people here, because people don't seem to come to many of the meetings unless we talk taxes, is every year show our map up there, show your projected finances, and say, okay, we said we would do this at the end of 2025. Here it is. This is what we did. And if you don't do that, we say, okay, we got another lie going. We're done with it. But if you show us that progress, first off, you earn trust, and you don't get the rotten tomatoes thrown at you.
It's loyal.
And I think we've got people that are qualified in this city. I'm sick and tired of seeing us farm out these big contracts to do a proposal.
Yes.
The traffic proposal up here around the middle school and the other school that we've paid a fortune for, and that's been going on for 4 years that I know of. And finally, I hear that we've got something.
Oh, that was a grant, that was a KDOT program, and there was no local dollars on that one.
Well, still, we've got the parking problem. I drive a school bus. I can tell you about that ramp out there on the overpass over the railroad tracks out there. Try that in a school bus, especially if your kid's in the back of that bus.
Don't sit in the back.
They launch. And you've got to go really slow. But we have had a traffic problem out there. Sometimes we can't get into the school with our school buses. We have to park out there on the highway, waiting for traffic to let us get in and let the kids off. And you get 70 kids on a school bus, and I don't care how good of kids they are, your nerves start to get a little rattled when you're sitting out there in traffic for long enough.
Well, when I had 3 kids in the back seat when they were growing up, that was bad enough. So I went in the 70s.
But wouldn't you agree that problem might be more the school system's entrance and exits?
Yes, it is.
So
And we did a
we come back and
study.
blame the city for a study that didn't cure the problem.
Well,
and it's more this.
Yeah, but we're always, the city, we're always farming stuff out. It's just like somebody said to him, aren't you smart enough to be able to figure that out? I believe you are. Why always do we've got people working on our roads here. They know better than these companies do that do these proposals, I think.
Well,
What
I
our
think
problems
we all can look at an intersection and say, oh, that's screwed up. It's not right. Maybe you ought to do this. But probably got rules and laws and stuff that you have to have certain people sign off on. I suppose is that correct?
Well, when you start messing with street, you have drainage, there's all kinds of things that go on with
Because you can't just cut a new entrance and say this is good. It's not.
depending on where it's at. If you're anywhere near the KDOT funded, KDOT roads, Yeah, you have to have their approval.
Is that,
I don't know,
maybe
maybe
there's
there's a
where
local.
Skyline Road
I
and
don't know.
the 77 is still there 2 years later? That terrible asphalt drop.
Yeah.
Stoplight, we gotta get KDOT to.
Well,
Put a
yeah,
little
and
asphalt in
that's, it's, yeah, we have to get their approval to do any work on those roads and.
Have we started that?
I think Tony's been in contact with them on things, but again,
We need to
and
get
then,
more
where's it,
aggressive on
and then
that.
money, and then money.
Where you stop at the stoplight at Skyline Road,
North
going out of
Kansas.
town.
Well,
Or the left lane, you honest to God better be up to about 2,000 RPM before you let the flash out, because you're not gonna crawl up out of the hole. If you stop
It's
it.
bad.
I mean, it's a foot deep.
And that's a major impression on the city.
Well, that's
Getting
what
out.
he's talking about coming down in the bump.
Yeah.
I know where he is.
I go across that every day, back and forth, and I commute from Winfield, I apologize. I'm a Winfield, but, and they got their problems. I'm not saying one's worse than the other. I did want, who was the gal that was here, that was talking to you just a minute ago?
From California?
The stood right there and was
Yeah,
talking about.
I don't know who she is.
In response to her questions, I wanted to clarify that we can't just go after bigger people because they have more money. We have to baby those bigger people because we need the money. And yes, they need to pay their fair share, but you can't drive them out of town.
There's a fine balance.
And that's,
We
and
found
that, and that's, small businesses are feeling that same issue too. Because the tax rate, you raise the tax rate, that means that every customer that comes in is considering that purchase a little bit more, whether or not they need that.
Or if they just want to go online and buy it rather than not support small
You know,
business.
and this was a point I wanted to bring up to you and her. I've been here 74 years, all my life. I worked on AC Industries 50 years. We were a recruiting tool for the city to bring industries to town. Our most successful recruiting was done with small companies like Husky Liner. Bob Tyler created a company with his wife and 2 women building the first Husky Liners that were built. Within 2 years, he had 150 employees. The Viola Elevator company that's here, Waldorf, those companies, the 2 mills she's talking about, that was, helped me, Snowden and who owned the other mill? She just died. Her name's up on the birthday of her dad, Wilkinson's. They owned the 2 mills. Small families came to town, built a mill in the 1900s. Very successful families, made a lot of money, were big contributors to the city because they knew the people had to live here, but they outgrew it. And what happens to the small companies? They sell out to big companies. Got Cooler sold out to Rubbermaid. Rubbermaid sold out to Newell. Newell sold out to whatever the company that owns them. And they lose all touch with the community. That's what we saw.
We're seeing something similar to that going on, aren't we, currently with the packing house? It was bought out.
Well, it's changed hands 4 times, the ownership, but it hadn't changed, and it's expanded, and they've got another $600 or $60 million expansion.
Now, I'm speaking out of turn. I don't know any facts. I heard that maybe that's, bubbles about burst there. Am I?
Don't bet on it. They're doing real well.
At Creekstone?
Yeah.
Right.
No.
The production is down.
That's all skewed. I worked at Creekstone in the upper analytics part. That is, they are so far from having any issues. Right now.
The reason I ask is I heard something about Walmart having their own kill plant, packing plant.
They are, they're putting one up in Olathe.
But they're also contracted.
Creekstone's
they're contracted with Creekstone. That's not their largest.
Creekstone is, we supply them 12,000 boxes a day to put Walmart product in. Creekstone.
Right.
12,000 cases, most of them are 50, 60 pound cases. Do the math, that's 1 million pounds a day.
What is
Walmart
that
buys
million
from
pounds
Creekstone.
going away?
They're going to Olathe. They're using Creekstone for the reputation. It all leaves here with Walmart's name on it, but it's Creekstone's ability to make better meat. They're buying it to build a reputation. That plant up there is gonna be built in 2 years.
But
It'll be
Walmart
meat.
doesn't care what you think.
That's right.
They don't care at all.
And they will,
They'll
and
buy
Creekstone
cheap.
knows this, so Creekstone's already digging out other buyers or whatever you want to call it. I'm not worried about Creekstone at all. What I'm worried about, I'm gonna tell you, is that we lost Zico 2 years ago.
Right.
We lost Husky Liners as of last month. They'll be totally out of here in September. We lost, Galaxy. They only employed, not Galaxy, I'm sorry, across the street from Galaxy.
Okay.
Fluid Kinetics.
Yeah, okay.
They were 60 or 70. We're losing some of these small industries. I'm telling you, are the best supporters we got.
Absolutely.
They're the small companies. Creekstone's not gonna go in. Where they got $300-500 million invested out there. They killed 2,000 head a day.
Right.
Do the math on that.
My
It's
concern is
20
if
million a
Walmart
day
can
to
do
do
it
it.
cheaper, they'll do it, and they'll run the hardware
Walmart's
store
not
out there.
even 2% of their business, not 2% of their business. So it
No,
will affect them, don't get me wrong. It's just like Walmart did Rubbermaid. Rubbermaid quit doing Walmart business because they couldn't make any money off it.
Right, well,
So even though it's a great deal of business, forget them. And they did, and it's hurt Rubbermaid. They've cut back on production.
But see, I wasn't talking about the big company. I'm talking about the people with vision, the people who are the small, they start a small business and it explodes out there. Those are the type of people we need to be bringing in here.
Yes.
And
That's
those
what I'm
people
saying. Look at
are
right
drawn-
five of those in. And you'd see
Those
it.
people are drawn to places that look good and have a
that
good
isn't gonna solve our
infrastructure,
tax
and that's
issue.
exactly what they're talking.
They're drawn to the places that really support business.
Mhm.
And there are places like that.
But they can kind of look
We're
and
not
see
one
who
of,
does it.
Kansas is not one of the best places to build a business in today. Our work comp law, a lot of our laws are against small businesses. I can't imagine today, Bob Tyler starting Husky Life. Cannot imagine the cost that he'd have to go through to meet all of the requirements. Well, we can't change that in this room. I'd love to. I'd love to tell you, I'll take an hour of your time and tell you stories about it. Other states are cutting a lot of those kind of laws out. They're cutting the benefits of work comp. That seems to be one of the biggest expenses for a small business is work comp insurance. In Texas, for example, work comp basically is 30% the cost of Kansas work comp. Why that is, I don't know. It's the same insurance companies insuring Texas people for work comp, but I think it's the law allows somebody to lose a finger in Kansas, you get 50,000. In Texas, you get a slap on the back and get back as long as your employer keeps you working. I mean, I don't know the particulars, but that's one of the things happening around the nation. Some of these states are realizing jobs is where our future is. Without jobs in the community, we got nothing.
Well, I drove over the road truck for a long time. They told me, don't you go to Kansas if there's a way of avoiding.
See, we're that way with Missouri now. We don't go into Missouri for hell or high
Because
water.
they didn't want it because of the fuel taxes.
Oh, no, we don't want it because of the DOT.
Yeah.
You can't get through Missouri with a truck nowadays without a $150 fine on top. They know you're there. They're gonna find you.
But we need to do the things that draw people with vision into this community.
You know,
It's
one
a
of the
great
best
thing
things
that
you
we've
can
got
do-
out here on our water.
The best thing you
Water
personally could do that will make a difference.
makes
Just
jobs.
get behind this college and their VOTEC program. If we can get that VOTEC kicked off and create welders and electricians and plumbers and those kind of people, we'll bring some small industries back to the community. I've had two industries, not industries, they're small. One of them is a company that makes pneumatic tools, the little air drills that they use in Cessna and Bowling and those places. They would love to come to our city. They only employ 30 or 40 people. They need plumbers. Hey, you need a plumber for you, creating a tool. It's all plumbing. It's air fittings. It's, you know, it's something I don't understand.
But for so many years,
You can't fill those seats up. Nobody wants to sit in that seat and become a tradesman.
And there's something to that. The employees gotta come too. Look what Creekstone's doing to get enough employees to kill all that beef out there. Busing people from 69 miles away. Over 300 of their people a day come in on buses. That's a significant increase in cost for labor.
And that does not do the city one bit of good, because that money goes home with them. And there's nothing I can do about that.
No.
Nothing you can do about it.
No, I can't either. We're not gonna drive the world. I'm just saying to him,
Yeah.
get behind this. A simple thing everybody in our city could do is get behind this college and the VOTEC program. If nothing else came out of this meeting today, but everybody get behind that college and say, what can we help you do on that VOTEC program to get some students in here? The students are gonna create an income for the community, the teachers are gonna create an income for the community, and some of those students are gonna stay here and take jobs here.
Yeah,
And might be able to
especially because we have so many years said it's all about your college degree.
Yeah, no, we've got
It's
too many degree idiots and
physical
no
labor.
workers. That's,
Yeah, and I hear from the kids all the time, you know, they're all looking at the big money jobs. They all want his job. They want to be able to sit behind the desk and do
If you wanna
everything.
make good money, be a lineman or
I was
something.
gonna say,
Yeah.
a good heat and air man in Wichita will make more money than Randy.
Well, yeah,
I think that's honest.
but that's not
Those
what they're
tech
selling.
school jobs are bigger money jobs now than they were 20 years ago. We wouldn't have looked at it.
But
Today it's,
the tech college, I'm happy as can be to see that they're finally getting back to teaching something that's useful.
I think they always have. They have to do like the rest of us and change with the times. There was a time they were very strong with tech. They were teaching woodworking and some of those skills. Those kind of died off, so they kind of quit teaching them. Now it's coming back around to these air conditioning and plumbing and electrical.
That's because all of us older folks are retiring and done with it.
That's older.
They gotta find somebody.
I was including myself in your age.
I only told you I was 74. I don't mean that's older.
I'm done. I want to say thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank
I
you.
wasn't trying to be confrontational. I have good questions.
I'm gonna listen to you one more time.
No, I appreciate it. Lloyd, you have a question?
Comment. I have enjoyed this last 15, 20 minutes of this meeting because I ask, if this isn't in your favor, tell me what is. And I sat on the planning commission, and your idea of fostering small business is something I proposed in planning commission, that we need to have an incubator set up that will attract people that want to learn how to successfully start a small business and give them a place to start it, and then help them be successful, and then kick them out so we can do that again.
And I think he was right.
They
in
have
saying
that.
This tech school here can go a long ways.
That
toward
tech
doing
school back in the day, we did a lot of things. That's when we had Cessna. Cessna was out here in Charlotte because of the tech school. And they brought the techies in. GE brought them in for the engine. Then we took them to Wichita because Boeing won. Then WSU said, and we had an agreement with WSU that we wouldn't transfer on their property without their permission. So they gave us permission to come up and teach Boeing people how to do it. After 3 years, they said, we can do this, we don't need this college, and they kicked us out. Lost 30% of our student population. If you read the paper, and they say, well, the student population was this 5 years, hell yes it was, we had Boeing going for us. Now we don't, but they're coming back slowly, they'll get over it.
And the idea of the VOTEC system, I'm an Okie.
Damn, I didn't know that about you. Take
You
back
know.
everything I thought about you.
That's okay.
See you later.
The idea that Oklahoma's VOTEC system has been doing this for 40 years, doing the trades, keeping the trades going. I appreciate the conversation that we've had. I appreciate what you've done to make this be. I appreciate my city. I wish it was better, and I'm gonna do what I can to make it better. But we had an issue, and I'm still livid about the issue that we had. And we had an election in this town that had less than 20% show up, which made me a 20%er tell you an 80%er the way it's going to be. That's not democracy, my friend. So the voters who want to vote in or vote out, they need to show up to vote. They just need to show up to vote. You cannot be in a democracy and not vote. I propose, and when I'm elected to Congress, no danger there. But when I'm elected to Congress, if you register to vote and don't vote, you're going to get a fine, because that is a waste of taxpayer dollars. But regardless, I think that you have solved your mission. You wanted to know what was going on, and I think we know what's going on. But I still challenge my gentleman, if you don't like this, show me something different. And he didn't.
Well, I was in the Marine Corps. I'm retired military. Marine Corps had a policy that if you want to bitch about something,
give me 2 or 3 answers to it.
that's right. Or bitch about it.
Yeah.
And I appreciate what he's done. I think it's interesting. He's come here from Chicago. He came from Chicago to Little Chicago.
Yeah.
That's what we used to call our
That's
city.
what I hear.
Little Chicago.
Yeah. He's just missing the pizza and the hot dog. That's what the big letdown.
We
But
can fix that.
I think
Please.
the trust issue is the biggest thing that we've got to fight. If you want to get anything done in this town, somehow you've got to earn the trust. And I think if you can come back 1 year later, every year,
And say,
okay, I told you back then, and I'm going to keep my paper and hold you to it.
yep.
But if you can come back in a year and show me, okay, said we would do this, right here's what we've done. You just gained some trust.
And the
On the
idea,
very few that show up here.
and the idea of trust, I appreciate your office. Because I have been in your office and you have not kicked me out once. Even though you were busy, you would tell me, I got 5 minutes. Okay, and in 5 minutes, I've spelled out. I've talked to your office. I've talked to the city clerk's office. I've talked to finance. I've talked to the police department, the fire department. There is not a matter of trust I have with any employee in this town. But what we see in my society is we have people that don't trust Topeka, and they even worse, don't trust Washington DC. That's not these people's fault. That's not. But if you want to vote, use your vote to learn about the issues which are important to you, and vote for the candidate that is going to best fix the issue. No commissioner on seated right now has it on their resume, I caused Stark City to fail. Every issue that we've talked about tonight has been decades in the making. But our next election is going to be electing the people that's going to fix the problem. And I was at the meeting this week. I was disappointed at the meeting this week because we heard people say that they have lived here for 2 years to all their life without one of them saying, we got a problem and this is how I'm going to fix it. Not a single one of them said anything about how I'm going to fix it. So vote, figure out how they're going to fix it, because it will be their fault if we fail.
Well, I just want to bring up something that's a little bit off the subject. But darn it, I'm tired of seeing, like I say, I've been driving the school bus for the last 9 years.
Yes.
Makes me madder than a hornet every time I go to a school board meeting. Because I'm the only one there that's not a school board member. Somehow, we need to get this community to pull together and get involved together. Earning trust, if you can do that, if you can show us right there, I think that'd go a long way in getting this community back together.
And you
Because that's
had
the big
tonight,
thing, nobody here trusts.
you had tonight 4 people online. I was expecting 50. I was wanting 50. We had more people in this room than normally attend a city commission meeting or a planning commission meeting. This was an important meeting, and I was pleased with how many people showed up, but this room should have been packed.
It should have been.
And only 4 people cared enough to log in, and I was the 5th one.
Well, 6 of the
I'll vouch for
people
you.
that came this evening, I recruited to come here.
Yeah.
And you know how I did it?
You offered them food.
No, I told them it was about our taxes.
Uh-huh.
That's all it took to get 6 people to come here was me telling them, you better get there, they're wanting to raise our taxes.
Well, and I'm glad they did.
Well, that's just it though. Jim, we're not wanting to raise taxes, but for 40, we're pulling out pipe out of the ground from 1914. We're pulling pipe out of the ground from 1922.
Yep.
That, we've got 80 or 60 miles of cast iron pipe still in the ground.
Yep.
And it's old and it needs to.
But my purpose was not, I am against taxes. I mean, it ticks me off all the time about taxes. I think your tax is wrong about Winfield, because I just heard the other day that with their fire department and all, that it's up to 9%.
Is it?
That's what I was told.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's right.
But
And you try and explain it to people. So you have 8.5%, 6.5% of that is state.
Yep.
That's not ours and we can't control it. And even if we got away with ours, you'd still have 6.5. So 6.5 is theirs automatic. We have 1 for the hospital. We're 2 years ahead. Money stuck up to pay that hospital off 2 years. It was supposed to be 2036 or something, and now they're looking at 29. That's how far ahead they've been able to get because they got a lower interest rate. They refied it at the right time, and things were going pretty good. They talk about the hospital. Well, okay, costing a baby is $10,000. Costs $10,000 to have a baby. 85% of ours are Medicaid.
Yeah.
And they get $3,500 for a Medicaid baby, which means they have to absorb all those other costs some other way.
Yep.
Social Security, Medicare is down to 32% of the bill. So for every $100, they pay 32.
Yep.
So no one expected COVID to do what it did, and it devastated cities, it devastated counties, it went through the business district, it devastated medical costs and care. And once that was done, you can't rebuild that overnight. So our sales tax has 1 cent for the hospital and 1 cent for police and fire. 60 to fire, 40 to police. That all goes in the general fund. But the half-cent sales tax, when they did it the first time, they tried to tag it on to something else. It didn't work. They came back and did it for 5 years. They should have done it for 10, but they were too afraid. And had they done it for 10, they probably could have gotten their stuff. But.
And Canyon, I've stood in the city council meeting and suggested that if you want to solve the fiscal problems that the city has, the commissioners need to have lottery tickets. And Randy, the city needs to annex Topeka. There's more taxpayers up there than there is here.
But you're talking about cast iron pipes being here. About 4 years ago, we parked the bus in front of the bus barn down here,
And
and it fell through the street.
Yeah.
And you know what it fell through? It fell through the storm drainage that was old oak wood, about 4 foot by, that was put in there. I don't know.
Jim,
if it was
there's guys,
into
they
the
don't
1900s.
even know where some of the stuff is. Because there was no mapping system, they found, I don't know, so they were telling me in 1950 or whatever, the guy out at Presbyterian Manor told me, said, yeah, we found this guy's notebook. It's a spiral notebook, and he had notes where he went and fixed stuff. I fixed this, and I fixed that, and I fixed this, and where it was. And if they hadn't had that notebook, if they hadn't found that notebook, they would not have known half of where stuff was.
Well, my house was built in 1974. I had a sewer problem, and come to find out, this city doesn't know where my sewer lines are.
We don't know where a lot of sewer lines are. And that's not a negative thing or a positive thing, because it's all over the state of Kansas. Because a lot of times people built and tied in themselves.
That's exactly what they did
From
on that.
50s,
It's
40s,
piggybacked
50s,
over
and
the top
60s.
of
Yeah.
one, and so when my neighbors flushed, I received.
How nice.
That's neighborly.
Yeah, that's close.
But I'm mad at you because
Oh, no.
I came here to argue with you. And the very things that you said, one of the big things is, I want us to get to using the people that we've got in this community. Instead of always farming everything out. I don't like the idea of going and getting another company to come down and do it and show us how it works. It's already been proven. Let's take our people, if we can trust our people, but we don't have the trust because of what's happened so many years. If we can trust our people, go up to Newton, look at it and see, is it breaking down? Is it staying together? If it's staying together, come back and report that to the people, and the people have enough trust to be able to believe what you're telling them. But to me, I see that as the biggest issue of any of it.
We let our feelings become prey to the 6 o'clock news because we don't trust the people, and we sure don't trust DC. And I've already said that I'm an Okie, and you already heard a guy at Kansas tell me he didn't trust me, so.
I don't trust you because all my brothers were Okies.
Somebody left their glasses and so.
Oh, that's mine.
Okay.
But I appreciate your
How's the meeting?
having the meeting here.
It looks like-
I wish it was better advertised.
I was on the news, that was pretty good.
It was on the news.
I don't.
Before I left, I took a picture, I screenshotted the news and put it on Ask and Answer. It was
One that was
on
over back here.
Channel 12.
He
Channel
came,
12. I don't listen
and
to Channel
he
12,
was
I don't
done.
listen to any of the local.
He came back. Yeah, I'll call you right back, love you.
You need to pay attention to local news, so.
It said.
That impacts you more than to people in DC.
So, he was out there.
I've got trust
He was
issues.
out there.
I know, and there's medication for
And he
that.
said,
I've got already too many medications.
and I said,
And thanks
well,
thanks
I
for
want
what you
everybody
did
on
for
and
me.
giving you. And I said, Jerry,
Thank you.
do whatever you feel like, but you need to.
I went in right.
So he said, I'm not opposed to
Did you,
it. So I called him and said, I'm not opposed to it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But I'll have it on.
I went ahead and let it go.
I'll let you keep going.
I think it's wonderful.
No,
I think it's okay.
Yeah,
I can get it. For your boots in Vietnam. That's what I think.
Well, Nathan and I mean, we had 2 commissioners, 3
Your
candidates,
hesitation is going to be yes, I'm going
and
to
7
change your.
suggestions, or 8.
Welcome home.
And so, but
Thank you.
the thing is,
That was not.
it's more of that